Always take this time to fix my hair, fluff it, you know what I mean? It's like with rice where you kind of fluff it with the fork. I'm getting to that point where I gotta fluff my hair because it's thinning out. Gotta make it look thicker than it actually is. Anyway, guys, what's going on? Mike here, and we are going to do part 4 of my video game collection overview. And today we are taking a look at the rest of the PS4, PS5, and probably the original Xbox. We'll see how far we get. You know me, I'm slow, so I'm only aiming for like 2-3 shelves today. We'll probably have part 5, and that'll round out my video game collection overview. So, let's get it going. What's up, Jolly Good? Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate it, as per usual. And, yeah, we're just going to get started here, and people will roll in as usual. I'll wait just a minute or two. How's it going, Jolly Good? All right, let's see. I always like to do a quick overview of the room here before I get started. Oh, look who it is. Kitties, kitties. Hello, kitty. Hello. Hello, sweet baby. Sweet baby kitty. Oh, the kid. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Look at him. Oh, he's spoiled. He's spoiled. Yeah, she's a good kitty. Oh, now he wants to fight. Oh, he wants to fight. Oh, my God, he's got me. All right, that's enough of that. What can I say, man? I miss my dog. I miss my dog. The kitty helps me get through it. All right, so we're going to get started. We've got a few people in here, and we're going to start with the PS4, or I should say finish up the PS4 from L to W. W. All right. Let's get it going. Actually, let's get these done up here real quick. So, Momodora. Momodora is, I believe, is this a Japanese game? I'm pretty sure it's, okay. This is a Metroidvania that I actually haven't played yet. Oh, no, I did play a little bit of it. Very different kind of Metroidvania. One of those Twitch platformers kind of combined with a Metroidvania. But very nice art style. I want to say this one was made in Portugal or Brazil or something, but I could be wrong. Ni no Kuni. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch Remastered. I still have never played this Studio Ghibli and Level 5 team up. Level 5 did games like Skies of Arcadia, pretty sure, and I know they did Dark Cloud and Rogue Galaxy. So really good developer, meets up with one of the great animation studios of the last, 50, 40 years. And still haven't played this, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a turn-based RPG. Here we have a spiritual successor to the River City Ransom game on the NES. But this comes from a long line of what's called Nikatsu games, which were, or Kunio-kun, Nikatsu, something like that. And this is, asks, what is the most tilt-inducing game you've ever played and why? That's a good, usually racing games make me tilt. I get that from my mom. So we used to play Mario Kart back in the day, and, my mom would sit there tilting, and I also did the same thing for the turns. But River City Girls, I've yet to open, as you could see here. But I know I'm going to enjoy this one because I like the Kunio-kun games. They're fun, little beat-em-ups with RPG elements and story elements. Very good. Chernobylite, this kind of looks like Fallout to me. And I've heard that it's a very good kind of open-world survival horror game, which leans on survival, if I'm not mistaken. But, I was talking about the N64 one, Jolly Good. That's the one I grew up playing. Some of the SNES one, but the 64 one was where it was at. Yeah, Blue Shell has ended many a friendship, absolutely, and marriages. But yeah, this is supposed to be a really cool look. It kind of reminds me of Metro 2033. It's got that Chernobyl kind of, dystopian kind of look. But I hear really good things about this, and it says up here, survival horror RPG. That sounds right up my alley. XCOM 2, I've never played XCOM 2. I did play the first one. I think it's a fantastic little strategy game, kind of Western strategy game. I got to be honest, Double Dash, Mario Kart Double Dash, I never really enjoyed. I thought the deviations from the gameplay did not make for a better game. you know, the teaming up and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It was okay. Did I see the trailer for Mario Kart World? Yeah, I did see the trailer for Mario Kart World. I know the Switch came out today, right? The Switch 2. Way too rich for my blood. I didn't even know it came out until I saw, like, somebody talking about it, because it's not even in my purview, financially speaking. What's my favorite NES game that isn't considered good by the gaming community? Maybe like Kabuki Quantum Fighter or something like that. There's a lot of... I'd have to think about that. There's a lot of platformers on that console that I absolutely love that I don't think get too much love from the community. But I'm not really too sure what the community likes and what they don't. I just kind of like what I like, and I don't really pay too much mind to what others like or don't like. Yooka-Laylee. This is a 3D platformer that was made in the style of Banjo-Kazooie and all those, that sort of Rare era 3D platformer. That sort of era, so like Jak and Daxter, it kind of feels like all of those. Not quite as good, but I don't think it's the worst. I think it's fun for what it is. The worst game for my sleeping schedule. I could get real caught up in the Western Bethesda RPGs like Fallout and like Skyrim. Oblivion, I played the remake. I played into the wee hours of the morning a couple times. I'm not too proud to admit, but it happens. All right, guys. So we're starting here with the elves. Last Guardian, water damaged, unfortunately. Yeah, Yooka-Laylee's all right. It could have been better, but it's got the spirit of that era. This game is absolutely beautiful, made by the same team who made Ico, Shadow of the Colossus. I'm a huge Ico fan, not as much for Shadow of the Colossus. I think it's a good game. I just think it's frustrating in a lot of ways that Ico and that The Last Guardian are not. This is a beautiful game that, if you are easily moved, will move you. It's very emotional. You grow quite an attachment to your flying dog thing that kind of reminds me of the creature from Neverending Story. And it's a beautiful game with incredibly intuitive controls, environmental puzzles that will really make you think outside the box. It's a beautiful game, guys. One of the most cinematic I've played, and one of the most beautiful stories told in a game, in my humble opinion. Hello, Lucy. What's going on? Thanks for joining. Guys, feel free to hit that thumbs up. I've been getting a lot of new people into the channel because you guys are supporting these streams so much. So I really appreciate that. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you can. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. The Last of Us Remastered. I love The Last of Us. I think it's a fantastic game. I am more a fan of the Uncharted series, for sure. But I do like The Last of Us, and I think it tells a good story, if not a little trite and generic, but a good story with cool creatures that have a nice spin, a fungal kind of spin to them, and tells a really good story about almost like a father-daughter story, even though they're not related, but they kind of form that bond. And it's great. Now, 2 is hyper controversial because of the story and some of the deviations that are taken here and some of the choices that are made. I can understand a lot of those choices, but I think this game actually tells a very visceral story about the cycle of violence and how anybody could fall into it. How once those wheels start turning, those violence wheels start turning, it's very hard to stop them. I think this game does some things right. I understand. I'm not a fan of what they do to Joel. I get why people don't like choosing. You know, there are no real good moral choices that are made in this game. And so every once in a while, I like stories like that are just dismal and speak to a really dark part of humanity. And I think this game does. I keep saying movies because in my head it almost plays like a movie. Naughty Dog. Yeah, I love Naughty Dog. Last of Us show was controversial. Yeah, I've heard that. I definitely would say I haven't seen it. I have no interest at all. Yin Yang, thanks for stopping in, by the way. But I will say that the girl that they got to play Ellie, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't hear it. It doesn't seem like good casting to me. The Mafia trilogy here, really nice trilogy I finally picked up that consolidates all these games into one nice package. all remastered, and that's fantastic. So I still need to play number 3. I've never played that, but I love number 1 and 2, but I've never played them remastered, so. Matterfall, I've talked about Housemarque and how I'm a big fan of Housemarque games. Now, I think they're a Swedish company, or they're from one of the Nordic countries, or the Scandinavian countries. I just can't remember which one, but maybe a Norwegian company. Either way, they make these very fun, sort of retooled classic games for the modern era. They kind of take some modern gameplay styles and update them or classic game styles, update them for the modern times, and bring a really fun and kinetic, fast-paced, and intense experience to these old style of games. This is like a shooter meets a side-scrolling platformer, meets a bullet hell game. I mean, it's nuts, but it is fun and will kick your ass until you get good, bro. Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, I own this for a specific reason. Yes, I own it for 9 and 10. Well, frankly, I don't own 7 or 8, actually, either, because those are super expensive games. So I own this for a very particular reason, because these games are hard to find on the PlayStation and on the Saturn, and then these games were digital only, I believe, that got some special edition limited physical releases. So this compiles all of the Mega Man games that are completely out of my reach financially into one package. That's what I like. Here we have Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, a Kojima game, which serves as sort of a prequel, a preface, we'll say, to Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. Now, a lot of people were pissed off about this when it came out because it was like a $40, $50 game and it was only a few hours long. Again, kind of introducing you to the world of Metal Gear Solid 5. I bought this for $5, so I'm not butthurt about, spending a bunch of money on a short game. I'm fine with a short game, especially if it's cinematic and leads into Phantom Pain. It's like I trust Kojima when he's making games, and I know he did this for a reason. Obviously, they wanted more money too, no question about it. But if this is like a epilogue, or a prologue preface to the Phantom Pain, I'll definitely check it out and enjoy it. So, like I said, I got it for a few bucks. I'm not crying about it. Hopefully next year the PS4 console will be discontinued. Yeah, I mean, it's still being supported because it still has great games coming out on it. Even some games that are not going to the PS5, which is nuts. Still heavily supported console. I would argue more people are playing PS4 than 5. And I'd argue that PS4 is going to be the last. So hear me out. This is a hot take. I plan to do a video on this, but video games from the PS4 on are basically physical licenses for the game. So I have this, or that's not a great example. A really good example would be something like this. Now, I'm not sure if I will be able to download all the patches and all the upgrades and all the day one all that shit in the future, which will make this game either obsolete or it will make it pale in comparison to its full version, because this is going to be day one. My point is, whatever's on the disc is what we are going to have access to in the future, so long as the big companies don't choose to support these things. So 20 years from now, if I want to play Monster Hunter World, I'm going to be playing a bare bones day one version of it that is not optimized, that the company could resell at a digital price and continue on. So my point is that these are not complete games on the disc, most of them at this point on the PS4, Switch, and definitely the PS5. There are no PS5 games that are going to be ready to play right out of the box day one, because that's not how games are developed anymore, right? They're developed to the point where get it out, get the game out, we'll worry about patching it later. Look at Cyberpunk. So if you have a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 and you put that in the machine 10 years from now, you're going to get a broken-ass game. So what they're trying to do is get us all to the point where we are okay with not having physical games. And I am not okay with that, because then that means they control what I view as my property. My property. PS3, no one's going to be able to come in and change these. PS2, same thing. No one's coming in and changing those games. But if a company makes it so that Nier Automata, the patches that make this game complete are completely owned by them, then that means I'd have to pay extra money for the complete game, even though I own it. That's a big problem. So, with that said, we have Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain here. Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, the only Metal Gear Solid game that I've yet to play, mainline. I still need to play Peace Walker, games like that on the PSP. But Phantom Pain is the open world Metal Gear Solid game and Kojima's last Metal Gear Solid game. So there you go. Then he went on to do Death Stranding. Metro Redo, this one is very good. I played Metro 2033 Redo. Very interesting post-apocalyptic game that takes place in Russia. And so has a very unique atmosphere, especially to us here in the West or in America. And very unique feeling game, good controls, creepy, great atmosphere. Very good shooter. Here we have the two Middle-earth games that I've yet to play, but I hear good things. They're open world, and they're kind of hack and slash, and yeah, I do want to play those at some point. Very dark and violent, I hear. Here we have Mighty Number 9. This is a game that nobody likes, really. I think it's an okay game. I think it's fine for what it is, but there was so much hype surrounding this and so many people donating to the Kickstarter, and this game kind of came out and was a bit of a wet noodle for a lot of us, and I think it's a mediocre game. It's in the collection because I have some fun with it, and also it's kind of a historical piece at this point. Monster Hunter World, I've not played any Monster Hunter games at all, ever. And I choose to change. I plan to change that at some point with Monster Hunter World. I've been told this is the best one to start with for new players. Moonlighter, kind of a Zelda meets simulation type of game where you run a little shop and you go out and fight monsters and garner items, gain items to sell at your shop. Sounds pretty interesting. Here's another Housemarque game there. Nex Machina. Now, this game I like even more than Matterfall. Yeah, there's nothing on the back there. It's limited run. This game is awesome. It's like a level-based. So you start on this little island. You kill all the enemies on the island in chaotic arcade-style dual-stick shooter fashion. And then you move on to the next island. And then, you know, maybe 20, 30 islands comprise a stage. You beat a boss, and then you move on to the next stage that's comprised of a whole bunch of little islands. These islands are packed with secrets and, you know, power-ups and upgrades. This game is chaotic, but so well designed that you will still be able to follow what's going on. My little brother and I beat this actually recently on easy, so we got to tackle it on normal next time. Brandon Chow, what's going on? Thanks for stopping in. Nier Automata, I didn't complete this game, but an absolutely beautiful and ethereal experience that this gave me. I just remember the music blending with the world exploration, seamless exploration, incredibly cool enemy design, very futuristic, based on AI systems and those kinds of concepts. This is a beautiful game with a beautiful story about humanity and our relationship with technology. Incredible game. If I'm being honest, I got to a boss that I thought was impossible. But I obviously didn't give it enough of a shot. So, Neo 2 is a game that I still need Neo 1. I know they just announced Neo 3 at the State of Play yesterday. That's exciting. The Order 1886. This is a very cinematic early PS4 game, if not a launch title. And kind of went over like a lead balloon, no pun intended. I think that might be a balloon there. But people criticized it for its lack of gameplay. Like there wasn't much gameplay, very heavy in the cinemas. But I still want to sit down and play through this maybe and see how it holds up. The Outer Worlds. This was a big deal because it was Obsidian doing a Fallout-style game of their own at a time when Fallout and Bethesda were struggling, we'll say. I really was impressed by this game and its dialogue trees and its story. Where it lacked was its world and its detail to the world. They were very confined spaces you explored and killed enemies in. And I'm hoping Outer Worlds 2 kind of opens things up a little bit and gives you a little bit more to explore, and sort of that sense of exploration is what I'm looking for, which it didn't give me. It gave me the great dialogue trees and the meaningful decisions, but not the exploration that comes with Fallout experience. Outlast Trinity. I've played the first Outlast, which was very creepy, very intense. Not really my type of game, if I'm being honest. I prefer horror games where I have some sense of defending myself. Pillars of Eternity. This one I picked up because it was like part of a buy two, get one. I was like, well, I might as well pick something up that I'm somewhat interested in. I'm interested in this because, again, it's Obsidian doing a top-down isometric Western-style RPG. So I'm sure that's fun for what it is. Prey, I do want to sit down and actually give this game another shot. I tried it. I was intrigued by its gameplay and its very inventive mechanics and its exploration and kind of the world that it builds, but I couldn't, it was very difficult and I couldn't get very far in it, so I want to change that. Project Warlock is an awesome, what the kids are calling boomer shooters, which is first-person shooters in the style of Doom in the 90s, you know, Blood, Duke Nukem, that kind of thing. If you could see the graphics here, it's got such a cool pixel art graphical style. And I just think it's awesome. I played through a little bit of this, but I did lose interest. I do want to sit down and finish it up and judge it fairly. Rage 2 I've not played. I love the first Rage. I hear this one is like a nice big open world, but I hear it's not quite as good as the original Rage, which is interesting. Rayman Legends. Wow, this is a dead stream. I have nobody in here right now. Rayman Legends we've got here, which is the sequel to Rayman Origins, which was kind of a reboot of the Rayman games. Very beautiful hand-drawn animation style here, as you could see. And one that I definitely have to sit down and play through. So here we have Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the best games I have ever played in my entire life. This game made me feel more than most games do. An incredible story, great characters who you grow a connection to, and this game is filled with pathos and sort of that old west melancholic atmosphere mixed with that signature rockstar humor. So this is an incredible game. I just think it's so poignant, and some of the music sticks with me and makes me think of somber times. It's a beautiful game. Jason, what's going on? You call me JC because of the hair. I'll take it. Tip, though, Jesus wasn't white, so there's that. We've got, Jesus was certainly not Irish and Italian, I'll tell you that much. We've got Remnant. This is a Dark Souls-like, a Souls-like game that incorporates, player, how do you say, co-op, online co-op that you could go through and kill a bunch of enemy monsters with. I actually played this through solo, single player, and I had a blast with this game. It is kind of rinse and repeat, you know, dungeon crawler, loot crawler kind of thing, but I love the progression. I love the level up progression. I love how each stage was very different than the last. This game is super challenging, but awesome. Here we have Resident Evil Revelations. I absolutely adore the Revelations games. I prefer this one over the second one, but I do love both of them. These were the first to bring back that old school survival horror style of Resident Evil that we were all craving. Remember, this came to the 3DS, and we were all excited after 5 and 6 came out. We wanted something more true to the survival horror roots of the series, and we finally got it with this. This is a great Resident Evil game that takes place on a ship. The whole game takes place on a giant ship, cruise liner, and there's an outbreak and yada yada, but I love the atmosphere, I love the setting, and it's just a very cool game. And yeah, Revelations 2, same thing, very good. I'm just not a fan of the constant switching back between characters. This game did it a little more than the first one, but I think these are two classic Resident Evil games that I will play over and over, definitely throughout the years. Resident Evil Origins, I still can't beat the first Resident Evil, whether it's on the PlayStation or on the GameCube or on the PS4. I just can't. That game gets so complex and convoluted and difficult. My God. Talk about survival horror. It's so hard. What's up, Byron? Byron Vampire. What's up? Thank you for checking in on the live stream. This one's a little deader than usual, but thank you guys for livening it up a little bit. Same thing with Resident Evil 0. Man, I've tried to beat this game a couple times, but I always get either soft locked out or I find myself in a position where I don't have enough bullets or whatever. Great atmospheric games, but not my favorite Resident Evil games because I think they're a little too hard. Yes, I do think that. However, this one balances the difficulty with the exploration and the mechanics and the atmosphere and setting so well. This brings it all together. I still love the first Resident Evil 2, the original Resident Evil 2. That's still, this one and that one are my favorite Resident Evil games, along with a couple more that are coming up here. But I loved this reboot remake, and yeah, it's such an awesome game. I play this over and over and over again. So I've actually beaten it like 4 or 5 times. There was one time I was sick pretty recently. I wasn't feeling too good, so I sat down and just played it twice in a row in like a 6-hour span. I just kind of speed ran through it. Love the game. You never played any PS4 games, Byron? Well, there's some good ones here that I'm recommending. If you have a PS5, a lot of these play on the PS4. Resident Evil 3 Remake, another one that I really enjoy playing through kind of over and over again, but is certainly a step down in terms of remakes when it compared to Resident Evil 2 and 4 here. But 3, I've always thought this game to be more of a 2.5 when it comes to Resident Evil, so it feels kind of like that. Not too much love, not as much love was poured into it as Resident Evil 2 and 4. But it serves its purpose and updates the story rather nicely. We've got Resident Evil 4. This is the original one in an HD remaster. Yes, like the Tekkens. I like the Tekken games too. We've got Resident Evil 4, the original, like I said, maintains, I believe, the tank controls, all that kind of stuff. And then we have the reboot, which makes the game better in almost every way. I gotta be honest, this game is incredible, just as good as Resident Evil 2, in my opinion. Damn near close. And here we have Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, which Resident Evil 5 I have completed and I enjoy. It is just a bit more of an action game with an action game kind of gameplay loop. And then 6 completely deviates from the original survival horror elements and creates, a fast-paced action game with 4 different story perspectives that all kind of come together. I've played through Leon's campaign. I think it was fun enough. I had a good enough time. It was a little too long for my taste. But, yeah, not a terrible game. But certainly the least good, the least of all the Resident Evil games. I have a rough idea, Byron, of how many games I have. I would say, yeah, about 2,000 video games. I'd probably say about 8,000 movies total. And then about 2,000 books. So, yeah, I have serious issues. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This is the big one that came out and got everybody excited that they were really reinventing the Resident Evil series while bringing it back to its roots. They gave us a first-person perspective, which was cool at the time, but I do gotta say I definitely prefer the over-the-shoulder for Resident Evil. It just feels like more like Resident Evil. But this Ethan Winters 7 is a good game, but definitely we'll talk about 8 soon. That was more my speed. Really? Okay, you're into books? Well, maybe one day I'll do a very specific stream on books, because that's not going to interest everybody. I know that for sure. But I have a lot of books that on subjects that interest me, a lot of history, a lot of philosophy, a lot of political stuff. And so, yeah. Maybe one day for sure, Byron. I'd love to show that off. A lot of it's packed up right now because I'm not sure what's happening with us moving, but I also wanted to cut down on the clutter a little. But I have plenty of books that I'm reading, so. Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice. This is a From Software game that I hear is the hardest of all of them. That does not really, intrigue me or alert me to having to play this game. One day I will give it another shot, but I couldn't even get past the first area, and I played for like 3 hours. Shadow Warrior, this is a boomer shooter, I guess, done in the style of the old school 90s shooters, fast-paced, lots of enemies on screen, dirty language, lots of gore, my kind of shooter, in other words. I love the original Shadow Warrior. You no mess with the Lo Wang. It was very irreverent with its humor and very in line with the homages to the old martial arts films and stuff like that. Very cool game. I'm not sure yet. I don't think we're moving for another year, but we may had, how do I say this? We thought we may have had to move, but I think we're good now, so. Yeah, well, most of what I read, Jolly Good, is boring into the atrocities of human history, so that just helps me to understand why we do the things we do. I try to understand those things. That's why I read, at least. Try to understand why things are the way they are, and you have to read history to understand how we got here. Shantae Half Genie Hero by Way Forward is an awesome little 2D hand-drawn platformer with Metroidvania elements. This one has less, I think, than the others, but it's still fun. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. This is an HD remaster of, I believe, a PS2 game. And so I still need to really get into Shin Megami Tensei. I played Persona on the PS1 back in the day, and, you know, I didn't really get it because I was super young. But this is a series, the Persona series, Shin Megami Tensei series, that Digital Devil saga, which really interests me about demons and computers and technology. But I still haven't really gotten into it, so... Thank you. I appreciate that, Byron. Here we have a really unique... I have played a bit of this. We have a unique survival horror game called Signalis here, or Signalis. This is a Japanese version here, as you could tell. And this one's actually a little harder to find because it has a red background there. I think this one's a little bit more expensive than the other one. But this is like a top-down, almost isometric, original Metal Gear Solid style survival horror game that does not hold your hand and becomes very difficult and very convoluted. And I wasn't expecting that, if I'm being honest. It's very old school in its sensibilities, so I need to sit down and give this one a little bit more patience than I had the day I tried it. Song of the Deep, Insomniac Games. The Insomniac Games they do like, what, Spider-Man and stuff like that, don't they? No Depth, or the old Tony Hawk games. This one I've yet to play, but it's a beautiful looking, hand-drawn, submarine-centric Metroidvania. I believe this one was put out by GameStop, if I'm not mistaken, when they kind of got into the publishing realm. But it looks pretty. It looks like my kind of thing. Here's another obscure survival horror game that I got at the Limited Run store. Now, I will say, some of my real video game nerds out there will know Limited Run. Limited Run, it was an online-only company out of close to Raleigh, North Carolina, or Cary, North Carolina, technically. And they actually opened up a brick-and-mortar store a few years ago. It's the only one in the world right now. They are planning on opening up more. So I've had access to these limited run games at retail prices because they can't sell them over retail price at their brick-and-mortar shop. So I've gotten a lot of cool games from Limited Run. They also have a great retro selection. Hey, kitty. And so if you're in the Raleigh area, it would behoove you to go check out the Limited Run brick and mortar shop and support some local game shops. They do really good work, and they have a lot of, in my opinion, they have a lot of junk that they put out, that they publish, that is just nostalgia bait and kind of getting the young people excited for older crappy games. But stuff like this, independent titles, indie titles that they release that would have no other way of coming to the physical market, I think is great. So, but this one I haven't played. Looks like a Resident Evil style game though. Here we have Fractured Butthole. Fractured Butthole. I wish I still had the voucher for this, but it is spent, or it was used, I should say. But this continues in the tradition of the Stick of Truth, which was developed by Obsidian, a really good South Park RPG that really sticks close to the spirit of the show while giving us a really compelling action RPG game where you really feel like you're a part of the story. And this continues that story, and I've heard good things about it, so I will play that at some point. I've almost beaten Stick of Truth. I got stuck at the end at some point. Too short to play. I agree with that, Jolly Good. Hi, baby. Okay. Jeez. He doesn't care about me. He just wants food. Don't be tricked into his games. Spider-Man. Still need to play these superhero games. I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan, so I'll play it when I get around to it. I've heard great things about it, and I'm sure I will enjoy it. Jedi Fallen Order. A game that I wasn't sure I'd like, but I actually did end up liking. Which one did you like, Byron? This game I liked because it was a Souls-like game. It was a Star Wars Souls-like game that told a pretty solid Star Wars story. Way better than any of the movies that have come out, that's for sure. So I liked this for what it was. I thought it was fun. I do want to see I do want to play Survivor. I hear that game is still not fully operational, which is insane. It came out almost 2 years ago. But that'll be $10 in no time, and then I'll pick it up. Squadrons. I thought this was a really nice return to the games that I grew up playing, where you get, inside of a TIE fighter, or you get inside of an X-Wing, and you from the first person's perspective, just shoot a bunch of shit up in space. This game is pretty epic, and I thought it was cool even without VR. Reminded me of games like Rogue Squadron and stuff like that. Here's another flight action game kind of thing, a Starlink Battle for Atlas. Now, I picked this up at the Dollar Tree years ago for $1 because frankly, it was $1, and I was like, I've never heard of this. This looks freaking cool. It looks like Star Fox. Little did I know that this game is actually part of like I guess you buy toys and then you put the toys in the game and all that. I'm hoping that this game, I'm hoping you could play this game without the stupid fucking toys, because this is a toy and I want to play it. And hopefully it's good and a full game that I can actually sit through. But yeah, for $1, I mean, what the hell? It's still sealed, so. Switch has Star Fox? Yeah, I'm sure they have some of the old Star Fox games, yeah. Oh, you mean the Switch version has Star Fox toys? Yeah, I've heard about that. So that sounds pretty cool. But if the game plays like Star Fox and is not Star Fox, I'd be okay with that too. Subnautica. I hear this is kind of an exploration-based Metroidvania game with creepy underwater settings and kind of cartoonish, kind of Bioshock vibes this gives me. I hear really good things, and it's also got a... Cat, you're wildin'. It's also got a sequel here, Subnautica Below Zero, but obviously I'm going to play the original first. Byron Vampire says, one of the first, 2000s, I think it came out and was just called Spider-Man. Yes, I do remember that one. It was based on the movie. Yes, it was pretty cool to be walking around in an open world at that time. I do remember that. Jolly Good says, never played it. Love you. Thank you. Yes, he's all right. There's his butt. There's his butt. All right. So, let's see. Where were we? Oh, this is nice to be able to sit down here. Sorry, you don't want to see my legs. I do have... These are shorts, not... Sundered. Oh, man. Talk about a beautifully hand-drawn, animated, 2D, almost Don Bluth-inspired animation here. For real. Look into it. If you guys are film fans, Don Bluth fans, this looks a lot like a Disney movie or a Don Bluth film. Eldritch Edition. So it's almost like Disney doing a Lovecraftian 2D Metroidvania, and it is cool as it sounds. I loved this game. I thought it was wonderful. I loved the gameplay loop, even though it did get a little dry by the end. But a beautiful game. Awesome. I still haven't opened this because I played it digitally first. The Surge. The Surge is a lower budget, kind of AA title that is a Souls-like set in a futuristic, kind of almost looks like Mad Max meets Edge of Tomorrow kind of like world. And I hear this is very difficult, very brutal in the Souls-like fashion. This is by a team called, I thought it was Spiders. I thought Spiders put this out. Did they not? Maybe they had a different name at the time because I thought Spiders put this out. Anyway, they did a game that, let's see, Steel Rising. Yeah, this one. It's French Revolution game here. Spiders. Yeah, they did this. I thought they also did The Surge, but maybe they didn't. Tearaway. This was a PSP or PS Vita game, if I'm not mistaken. That was a 2D, beautifully animated platformer, not unlike Little Big Planet in its style. And I was so disappointed because I was like, well, I guess I'll never play this on the Vita. I'm not a big handheld guy. But then it finally came to the PS4 in an updated version. So I thought that was great and have to play that at some point. Thief. This is an old PC series of games that really started the kind of sneak around stealth-based action game back in the late 90s, really, around the time that Metal Gear Solid was experimenting with stuff like this. Dishonored would kind of take this over and do it better than Thief ever could, I guess, in my opinion. I haven't played all the Thief games, if I'm being honest, so I guess I can't say that. But this one does look great. It does kind of look like Dishonored, I'm not going to lie, but Thief is where it started, so got to pay some homage to the original. But yes, this did come out. This is the reboot that came out after Dishonored. I love the Dishonored games, though. Time Spinner, a beautiful SNES-inspired, hand-drawn, or I should say pixel art, 2D Metroidvania game, action game. Beautiful game, has a very distinct and solid gameplay loop that I enjoy. I played almost 75% of this, but did not finish it. Not sure why. That happens sometimes, right, guys? But you could see it has a beautiful, it's a definitely Super Nintendo inspired, but man, is it even more rich than the Super Nintendo could have achieved. It's a beautiful game. Fun too. Titanfall 2, I never played the first one. It always appealed to me, but I heard it was more of an online game. This one created an incredible single-player campaign that will stick with you, that really forces you to empathize with and appreciate the bond that this character has with his mecha. And it's very, very good and definitely worth playing for its narrative. Its gameplay is just as good, just as fast-paced and twitchy and tight controls across the board. And when you get into your mecha, you definitely feel a sense of power. It's a very fun game and a nice, brief single-player experience, but a memorable one. Tomb Raider, this is the reboot that is a lot like Uncharted, but I'm all for that because I love the Uncharted games, and this definitely is distinct in its own right. And I love these games. I thought the first one and the second one were fantastic. Shadow, I haven't played yet. This is the third in the series here. I think, was it the third? Rise, yeah, I forget. Maybe it's... I forget how it goes. Is it Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, then Shadow? But anyway, so we have the Uncharted games here. Yeah, the rebooted Crash game on the PS4 was very good. I agree. And then they did the nice trilogy remake. This collects all three of the Uncharted games in a nice, concise HD collection. This is how I played through them for the first time. I think these hold up remarkably well, especially 2 and 3. 1 is a little old school, and it's got more traditional gameplay elements, but I think it's very fun and certainly worth playing. Just not quite as good and refined as 2 and 3. And Uncharted Lost Legacy I've yet to play. I'm kind of savoring it. And, frankly, I want Nathan Drake. But number 4 is one of the best games I have ever played. It is an incredible game with an incredible story and a great end to the Uncharted quadrilogy. You like Dragon Quest for NES, but that is kind of grindy, I guess. It is certainly grindy. I love that you love that, though. Hey, back in the day, we didn't know anything else but grinding. So we actually found an enjoyment in it, and I still do have an enjoyment, a very meditative kind of, how do you say, cogitative state that you go into when you're grinding in these games. I still enjoy grinding. But that is a cool one to bring up. No problem, Byron. I get it. Hard games are not for everybody. I'm a big fan of the Souls-like games because they tap into that old-school hard that I still enjoy. But boy, do I get pissed sometimes. You guys will see if I start doing live streams. Until Dawn. This actually has a movie that just came out pretty recently. I never understood why they needed to do a movie based on a game that was obviously like a movie and, like a TV series. I just don't understand. Hopefully the movie's fun. That's all I ask from movies these days because I don't expect much. But Until Dawn is one of those choice-based, you kind of choose who lives and who dies. A decent story that gets overtly convoluted in a lot of ways. A lot of these games do, the super massive games. But the ones that keep it simple, I think, are more effective and tell a better story. But this one's okay. Some memorable characters and definitely a game that has replay value. And I like playing those games with my siblings. Valfaris. Valfaris, I've not played, but it seems to be a 2D, almost pixel art, Contra-style game. Looks like almost cyberpunkish. Looks awesome, doesn't it? How can you go wrong with that badass 80s Frank Frazetta, Roger Dean-inspired artwork there? Yeah, seems cool as hell. Valkyria Chronicles 4. I do want to get into this series. I plan to. I have the first one and the fourth one here. Looks like kind of like Advance Wars, if Advance Wars was if you were on the ground instead of top down. I hear that you interact with this one a little bit more, so it becomes more of an action strategy RPG, which is pretty neat. Very Japanese. Vampire. This is kind of an open world vampire game set in the Victorian era, which is pretty cool, or I guess post-Victorian era, but London 1918. So London World War I era. Or right after World War I, we'll say. Anyway, you play a vampire and you go around, and this one is for you, Byron. Yes, it's even spelt almost how you spell yours. But I played this one for a few hours and actually really liked the gameplay. But I was playing it on the Switch and it wasn't optimized for the Switch. And I know that this version will be better, will run a little bit better, smoother, maybe a higher frame rate. But I do remember the choice being incredibly vast that you have over the decisions that the character makes and some of the relationships you forge and, you know, having to suck the blood of your enemies to stay alive. Vampire was cool, and I do plan to sit down and play through that. Here's a PS4 game that's getting up there in price because it's a couch co-op game in a time where we don't have many of these. Yes, Switch 2 did launch today, and I'm hoping that some of you were able to afford it and enjoy it because I unfortunately can't afford it, so I won't be enjoying it for probably 6 months to a year. We'll see. I'm happy with the games that I have here and plenty of stuff to play, so I'm not too worried about it. This one I played through with my younger brother Thomas. We enjoyed it. You play each as a character, and they kind of work together to solve puzzles and to shoot a bunch of bad guys. And it's got action, puzzle solving, almost Mario Party-like mini games. Very interesting gameplay style, kind of like the show Prison Break, if you're familiar with that. But this one's getting up there in price, like a $40, $50 game now. Let's see. Byron says, I love Animal Crossing. Yeah, Animal Crossing I've not yet played, but a lot of people love it. I know it's going to be very addictive for me. Yeah, next year, you know, it's good to be patient, Jolly Good. Good to be patient. Wolfenstein! Wolfenstein! I've yet to play the Wolfenstein reboots here. This series has been rebooted a few times, and I've yet to play, actually, yeah, there's one of the first reboots there. And then we had the New Order. So I hear great things about, yes, I was doing my Wolfenstein German accent there. This one is all about killing Nazis and alternative timelines and what if the Nazis won and all that kind of fun alternative historical stuff. I would like to play this at some point. And I hear the Old Blood. Is that the one that's kind of a remake of the great classic on the PC, Return to Castle Wolfenstein? I love that game, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I wish that was on this disc. That would be cool. But yeah, I hear great things about this reboot here. So, Machine Games. Machine Games are the guys who did the newest Indiana Jones game, which blew my mind. All right, we're getting into the PS5 here, guys. We're going to do the PS5 at least. We're going to see how I'm feeling and maybe do the Xbox. We'll see. After Image is an absolutely beautiful... I might get this wrong here. I want to say this is a South Korean Metroidvania. It's either South Korean or Chinese. It's not made in the West or Japan. And so it has a very unique art style that can only come out of one of the... I'm pretty confident this is a Chinese Metroidvania here. Blown away by the hand-drawn artwork here. It will take your breath away. And each frickin' frame of this game is like a painting. The gameplay is tight and fun. And the puzzles are great. The combat is solid. This is my kind of addictive Metroidvania-style game here. Guys, if this looks like a visual novel to you, don't be deceived. It's not a visual novel. It's a beautiful hand-drawn action RPG. From a country that we are starting to get more games from, which is very exciting. Country that didn't allow its populace to make games for a very long time. So that's just not where the industry was. Absolov, End of Gods. I don't know much about this. I hear it's like a survival horror puzzly kind of game, if I'm not mistaken. I do want to sit down, Norse mythology. I do want to sit down and give this a shot. Super cheap game on the PS5 when I picked it up. Here's a Bioshock. This reminds me of Bioshock, almost like a Soviet-centric Bioshock kind of game here. I love the look of it and the design here. I'm hoping the gameplay holds up. I don't hear great things, but you know what? I'm going to give this game a shot. Looks right up my alley. All right, I'm going to check in with you guys, see how everybody's doing. Thank you all for checking out this live stream or the archive. I appreciate that. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Thank you all. So next up, we've got Balan Wonderland. Balan Wonderland was a $5 PS5 game that I picked up, or like $7 or something like that. Looks like a nice, pretty 3D platformer here. I don't know much about this, but hey, This is a genre of games that I feel like is mostly dead, and when these games come out, they kind of get lambasted for being too traditional in style, and so I don't trust the reviews. So I want to judge it for myself. All right, Blasphemous 2, I absolutely adore this game. Takes place during the Spanish Inquisition with a high fantasy, dark fantasy, some kind of edge to it. I love the design of the main character and the look of the graphics. It is disturbing, surreal, will make you go, what the fuck am I looking at? It is a very cool game with like I said, not many games take place during the Spanish Inquisition, so very deeply religious themes, a lot of religious language. Whoever wrote this game definitely knows their Catholicism, their Catholic, the Catholic religion and the Christian religion in general. This really digs into the mythology, very deep European mythology about Catholicism. It's very interesting. 2D Metroidvania, by the way, with Souls-like elements. Brutal game. I still can't beat the final boss, so fuck that game. Awesome game, though. Bramble, the Mountain King. This was part of a buy two, get one at some point, too. I was like, you know what? This doesn't totally look like my style of game, but it also looks a bit like The Last Guardian and like Eco and like that company's games. And so if this is anything like that, almost like a spiritual successor or homage to it, I'm all for it. And it looks like the high fantasy kind of folkloric stuff that I do enjoy. Callisto Protocol was made by a team of people who worked on the Dead Space games, and it definitely shows, that this is not a Dead Space game. The combat could have been better, could have been thought through a little bit more. Once you get into the swing of things, you kind of adapt to its crap factor, as the AVGN would say. You kind of, get down with its gameplay flow, gameplay loop. This is not a bad game. It's just not a great game. But I did finish it. I thought it was a compelling enough story, compelling enough and engaging experience, and Dead Space-like. So, hey, nowhere near as good as the remake, though. The Chant. This was I played only a little bit of this, but I thought it was a very interesting deviation on the survival horror. This one has some interesting gameplay mechanics that I really need to dig into a little bit more. But I remember the setting being cool. This girl arrives at this like very creepy 70s kind of cult. And you can imagine where things go, and she starts fighting these Lovecraftian creatures and also escaping from them. And yeah, this one is in a really nice special edition here. So I'm sure will go up in price. Let's see. Jolly Good says, speaking of Xbox, back in the earlier mid-2000s, Rareware bought Microsoft. Before Rare lost the rights to Nintendo. Yeah, the way you've got it close. Microsoft bought Rare as a company, and then kind of gutted it and destroyed it, in my opinion. That's what Microsoft does very well. They buy companies, and then they destroy the companies. Control Ultimate Edition. I played Control on the Xbox Series X or whatever it is, and I was absolutely blown away by this game. I played through it. I beat it. Digs into concepts, scientific and philosophical concepts that not many games do, including the astral realm and astral projection and alternate dimensions and kind of mapping those alternate dimensions, which I've read that we're doing now with psychedelics and things like that. It's very interesting, very trippy, and will certainly get you to think. But what this game does better than anything is its gameplay. It's one of those games where you feel stronger and stronger the more you play, the more you upgrade. You start off punching dudes, and then you get guns, and then you have telekinesis, and then you could fucking pick people up with your mind and throw them against walls. It's incredibly cool. And great story that makes you want to look in every nook and cranny for any information about the world. This is Remedy Games, one of my favorite developers. Max Payne, Alan Wake, Control is another one of their great classics. Feels a little bit like Max Payne at points, which made me happy. Chris Tales, very cheap game right now, here in 2025 on the PS5. Indie title, made in the 2D hand-drawn animation style, and follows a Japanese turn-based style of combat, which looks very fun, very quirky, and I'm sure that this will be a fun little homage to old RPGs. Yes, Jolly Good, you were close. Let's see. Okay, this game blew me away. I remember picking this up on a whim at a pawn shop. I was like, you know what, this looks cool, and it was relatively new. I had never heard of it. I looked at the back, I read the back like old school days, and I said, you know what, this deserves to be supported. So I bought this game, and I got home and played it. Super fun, old school style, 3D hack and slash game with a ridiculous over-the-top style with rainbows and violent and gore and limbs flying off, and it's very mature. You could make... I actually preferred the blood to be purple because it actually fit better with all the crazy, absurd, creatures. You can choose to... This game was actually censored, so they had to make the blood purple, but I actually think it's a better creative choice. It's almost like Kill Bill, where he was forced to do that scene in black and white, and he chose like the eye being gouged out as the time to switch to black and white. I think the purple gore actually works better here, but you can switch it to blue. Great music, crazy over-the-top music. You play as this cute little cat on this cybernetic sort of, hoverboard. You fly around, you cut enemies up, you look for secrets, you collect... It's a collect-a-thon, you collect stuff. I played through this, I beat it, I thought it was awesome. Check it out. It'll probably be cheap now. Lords of the Fallen. I played a little bit of Lords of the Fallen. I thought it was great, actually, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm just not primed to play a certain genre, and then I move on. But this is a great Souls-like game that comes really close to getting the From Software style while having their own mechanics that separate it from the pack. This is a very dark, high fantasy, medieval game here. But I really liked its mechanics and plan to get back to it at some point. The Quarry. The Quarry is not the most impressive, supermassive game here. I think it tells a pretty boring story, if I'm being honest. You play this with your friends. It'll be fun with some alcohol or whatever. No alcohol is fine, too. I don't drink either. But, alcohol will make this a little bit more bearable. It's kind of like watching a bad B-movie, so... Illicit substances definitely make those better for some people. And this is okay. It's not bad. When people start dying, it gets exciting, but boy, does it take some time to get there. You want to talk about a true to its roots, old-school survival horror game? My God, this is almost true to its roots to its detriment. This game is brutally hard. You can get fucking stuck in this game like I did early on, where I didn't have the right thing, and then I ran out of ammo, and I was like, I gotta restart the game. Soft locking in modern games is pretty annoying, but they were trying to be true to their roots. Yeah, you gotta pay attention, you gotta run past enemies, etc., etc. I'm gonna give that a shot again one day. Here we have Wolong, Fallen Dynasty by Team Ninja. This is supposed to be a really interesting Souls-like game by Koei Tecmo that I think went under the radar for a lot of people, because this came out earlier in the PS5 library, I think. Did it? No, maybe it didn't, but it just kind of came and went. Not many people talked about it, but I had my eyes on it because of the developer, Team Ninja, who did... Who did... Team Ninja, there it is. Yeah, who did the Ninja Gaiden games... which are fantastic. So it's a great developer, so I knew I wanted to play this Souls-like game. I know it's going to be brutally hard. I've heard it's even harder than a lot of the From Software games, but I will find that out for myself, and I will see if I could conquer it. We'll see. All right, moving on to the rest of the PS5 games here. House of Ashes, this is another dark picture game here by Supermassive Games. They make the narrative-driven, decision-based action games. This is the best of all of them, in my opinion. This tells a really cool alien-esque story. I don't want to say too much, but they go into this cavern during the Iraq War. So it has a little bit of political commentary, which I like. But they go into the Iraq War. They find this pit, this cave underneath the villages. And it's this vast, cavernous kind of abode of some sort of creature. I don't want to say too much else, but it's great. Your decisions matter. There's some action in this game, more so than the others. And again, it kind of plays like Aliens. Here we have one of my favorite modern games. I've dumped so many hours into Dead Cells. And when I heard that they were teaming up with Konami to bring a Castlevania edition, I was like, hell yeah, that sounds right up my alley. So it's Dead Cells with Castlevania, with some Castlevania levels and bosses and weapons and stuff like that. So it is a DLC, but this is the definitive edition in my humble opinion. I love this game. It is roguelike, so when you die, you got to restart, but you know, every time you die, you kind of get a little bit stronger. It's a very good game. One of the best games that I've played in years, a survival horror game, Dead Space. This is a remake of the original PS3 one. And it pretty much does everything just as good, if not better. This game looks absolutely gorgeous. This is a remake at the same caliber as the Resident Evil 2 and 4 remake and the Silent Hill remake. I'm so glad we're getting remakes of this caliber now because they're absolutely great games in and of their own right, separate from the original game, and that's how it should be. You still want to play. I still would like to play the original Dead Space, but I also like to play the original or the remake. Deathloop by the Arcane team. Like I said, Microsoft and Bethesda buys these companies and then destroys them. This is a very confusing game. I'm not sure how this got to market in its current state. I think it's very convoluted, very confusing how to play this game. I don't really get what they're trying to say. They're trying to do like a Groundhog Day kind of thing, but man, I played this game for hours and didn't understand what the hell I was doing. I would like to play it again because I do feel like it's a my problem kind of thing where I didn't do something right. But I mean, in the modern age, if you play a game for 3 or 4 hours and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I feel like that's a problem, especially a AAA game. Was Castlevania the first Angry Video Game Nerd episode? I think it was. Yeah, right? It was the very first Simon's Quest, right? Next up, another Souls-like game by From Software. This is a reboot From Software actually didn't work on this. So there you go. This is a remake of Demon's Souls on the PS3, which I have up there. Yeah. I still want to beat the original Demon's Souls, which I hear is even actually easier than this. They somehow managed to make this game harder. But I will definitely play this at some point. I would just rather play through the original on the PS3 first, if I'm going to torture myself. One of the most surprising games to come out in this era that absolutely blew me away with its creativity and its beautiful, gorgeous, immersive gameplay and graphics. You play as an ant in a colony of ants, and it's an RTS, so you kind of command your squadrons of ants around to take other ants out, and to pick up food and bring it to your nest and to explore. And man, if this game had more of a budget, it would have been even better because it is a smaller game. It's a pretty big game for what it is, but it is limited in its gameplay choices. But it is super fun, very strategic. It gets harder and harder, very nice difficulty curve. If you guys love insects or entomology and really wanting to feel what it feels like to be on the ground as an ant in a colony, this game really gets you on the ground and makes you feel that way. I've said before, I'm a big fan of entomology. I've read giant tomes about ants and the way that they coordinate and communicate and exist, and they're a fascinating creature. And this game definitely celebrates how amazing they are, because I'm not the only person that feels that way. Next up, we have this is a Chinese 3D or 2.5D Metroidvania game with a beautiful cyberpunk style and this awesome rabbit who is like he's like a cybernetic rabbit. Very cool designs, very cool story with anthropomorphic, sort of gritty cyberpunk characters, fist forged in Shadow Torch. This game is very cool, and again, I'm so happy to see these Metroidvanias and these games coming out of China and Korea. I think it's great. It gives us a new perspective. I'm all about new perspectives on older genres and traditional elements in games. Yeah, I love early AVGN. I still support him, but he had a pretty rough patch over the last 10 years. But a lot of his new episodes are pretty good because he's writing them himself again and has full control over the production. Phobia, Saint Dinfna. That really rolls off the tongue, right? Dinfna. This game looks, again, kind of cool, right up my alley. It's kind of a survival horror. I'm not sure how much you can defend yourself in this, but it's exploration-based, looks kind of creepy. I want all the horror games that I can get my hands on, frankly. Ghost Song, this is a Metroidvania that very heavily inspired by Metroid and sort of its alien worlds and exploration. And I played through this game. I really enjoyed this. I think this is a solid 3.5 out of 5. Very melancholic and somber in its tone. It's got a lot of beautiful watercolor settings and backgrounds. The combat is pretty good. It's not bad. It could have been better. The exploration is solid. Actually, the combat I remember being pretty good. I've played worse in Metroidvania games. The story was good if you have the patience to sit through tons and tons of dialogue, which frankly I didn't. But I did get the gist of what was trying to be said here. Great game, very good music, very somber. Ghostwire Tokyo by Tango Gameworks, the guys who did Evil Within, which I wasn't huge on, but this game was like my game of the year when I played it. I absolutely loved this game. I thought the controls were intuitive and fast-paced and, you know, really, really helped you immerse yourself in this creepy shadow world of Tokyo where, like, the spirit world is starting to invade the natural realm, and Tokyo is absolutely desolate except for these creepy creatures that kind of stalk you in a dark city-like way. It's also partly an investigative game where you kind of go around, you solve crimes, and those are so cool to pay attention to because it feels kind of like a procedural, like a Japanese horror film, kind of like The Ring, where you're not sure if something supernatural is going on. But the combat does get a little bit dry. It's all first person, and you shoot like spells at dudes and stuff like that. But it is super fun, and like I said, it gets a little dry by the end because there's not enough to kind of innovate the mechanics. But I did everything I could in this game. It was an open world game that I really wanted to do everything I could. I got super addicted to it. Really impressed with this game. And now Tango Gameworks is completely dismantled because it was bought out by Microsoft and Bethesda. So there you go. And they drove them into the ground after one of the best games, whatever. Greek, I've not yet played. This is Memories of Azure. This is a Metroidvania watercolor 2D game here where you control a few different characters from what I understand. And that is what the gimmick for this one is, where you control 3 different characters with different abilities to solve puzzles, kind of like in a Lost Vikings kind of way, from what I gather. This one is, in my opinion, going to be one of the harder games to find on the PS5 in the future. This is Grey Hill Incident. This is a very, very interesting found footage style first-person horror game based around X-Files like aliens and abductions. That's why I want it, because those things creep me out in a very visceral way. Now, I hear this game is absolutely terrible. I hear it's garbage. I'm not sure if I'll agree with that. I need to play it to judge it. I think this game looks cool. If it delivers what it promises in a short amount of time, I will be happy with that. If it gives me those X-Files vibes, those sort of Area 51 conspiracy grays kind of vibes, I will be a happy camper. But this one is already going up in price, so expect that one to get more expensive. Yeah, I hear you, Jolly Good. For me, I disagree. I think there's a lot. You just have to know what to look for. If you notice, very few of these games are, quote, AAA titles. All of these are independent games and AA titles that I prefer to support because they're better, frankly. Hades is another great isometric roguelike game where each time you die, the story progresses a little further and you get a little bit more out of the characters, and it truly does change every time you die. And you do get a little bit better, but the game has a great addictive intuitive gameplay mechanic where you go around with great action combat, just destroying everything in your path. I liked the, I forget what it was, like the brawler and the shield guy I liked quite a bit. I like to play as the shield. But yeah, very cool game that is getting a sequel. Beautiful hand-drawn graphics. Great voice acting. Quite the production for a AA game. I love it already. If it's terrible, it may be a gold. Exactly. Byron asks, what does AAA mean in games? Yeah. AAA you can equate it to like a Hollywood film. So like a Marvel movie would be a AAA movie. AAA game would be something like Dead Space Remake or Resident Evil 8 was a AAA game. Those are examples of good AAA games, but a lot of AAA games are coming out now that are lackluster, like the new Dragon Age, like a lot of games. That's why people are going more towards the AA games and the independent games. AA just denotes not as much money was behind the production of the game, not as big of a budget. So you can consider, I don't know, a smaller budget movie a AA movie if you'd like. But yeah, I would say that Grey Hill is an example of an independent game. Dead Space or Deathloop is a AAA game made by a giant studio. And then an example of a AA game might be Metroid Exodus would be a good example of AA. All right, so next up we have Haunted House. This was part of a buy two, get one free at some point that I participated in. Haunted House is actually a reboot of the old Atari game. Can you believe that? The old Atari game, Haunted House, which was pretty ahead of its time for what it was in terms of exploration and kind of spooky kind of gameplay. I'm not sure what this game is about, what it's like, if it's an action game. I have no clue. But it was $15 brand new, and like I said, I got it for a free. So I was like, you know what, let's give this a shot. And I plan to. Jason Hogan asks if I've ever played Manhunt. Yes, I have played Manhunt. I have it still on PS2, but I have it disc only, unfortunately. And I'm not sure what happened to my copy of Manhunt 2. Manhunt 1 at the time was hyper controversial, so as a 14-year-old boy getting off of still hopped up on GTA and early Rockstar stuff from the early 2000s, my buddy Dom and I were super excited to play Manhunt, and we thought it was brutal and visceral and awesome. So Ikai, another game that I think is going to get up there in price. This is another independent horror game. Obviously, looks like The Ring or The Grudge, and I had to pick it up. If it's a video game version of that, I will take it. So it kind of looks like Fatal Frame, almost looks like a period piece. I don't know. I don't hear great things about this, but I'll take it. Horizon Forbidden West, I've yet to play. I still have very fond memories of the first Horizon games, so once those wear off, I'll jump into this. Because, man, I had such a great experience with the original game. Oh, it's such a beautiful game. Immortals Phoenix Rising, such a strange name, with strange spelling. I played about 10 hours of this. This is a beautiful, open world, Greek mythology-based Zelda-like game, Breath of the Wild-like game. It's clear what it's influenced by, but it has an awesome open world that has a lot of cool little nooks and crannies that you can fully explore, and you get stronger and stronger and able to fly around more. It's got great little mini objectives and things like that. Really vibrant and cool open world. I do think this game went under the radar. Super cheap game now. So if you're fans of Breath of the Wild, I definitely recommend this. And I played it on the Switch, and it wasn't optimized for the Switch, so I bought it on the PS5. Just as cheap, so if not a little cheaper. Iron Harvest 1920. This always interested me, especially when it was on the computer. But then I saw a PS5 version was coming out. And to be frank, I'm okay with controlling a game like this with the analogs. Would I prefer it on the computer? Yes. This is a Age of Empires style, Command & Conquer style RTS, real-time strategy game, PC RTS, I would say. And yeah, I really want to take a look at this game and give it a shot because I miss playing RTSs. I just get really addicted to them. This is like alternative history, has a great art style that was inspired by a Polish artist. He may have even helped with the game. I can't remember, but yeah, this one looks really cool. Right up my alley. We'll scratch that RTS itch that I always have. Let's see. We've got Judgment, a game that I gave a solid 20 hours to, but I couldn't stick the landing. It was a little too long for me. 50, 60-hour game, I feel like. But very cool. Blends a diverse selection of genres into one. It's an investigative game. It's got action mini games. You chase dudes around. You fight guys. RPG elements. Adventure game. Definitely elements there. an incredibly cool story. This is why you play this game, for the story and for the immersiveness and the engagement in said story and its world. You get to run around in Tokyo, beating dudes up. This is an offshoot of the Yakuza series, by the way. Like a Dragon at this point. It's been renamed. I guess Yakuza gives it a negative connotation. The Yakuza doesn't like that. Kina, Bridge of Spirits. This is, I don't know, it looks like an Uncharted-inspired kind of action-adventure platformer. Eco meets Uncharted, that's the vibe it gives me. Super cheap game on the console, so I picked that up a while ago now. Another game from Limited Run. This one's cool. This one's not made in China, not made in Korea, South Korea, not made in Japan, but made in Taiwan. So a Taiwanese game. How many of those can you say you've played? Not many. This is based on a Taiwanese legend named Chanding. So this one's called The Legend of Chanding. And Chanding was sort of a Robin Hood-like character. Steal from the rich, give to the poor kind of thing. This has beautiful, hand-drawn, excellently animated 2D graphics here. It's a beat-em-up style game where you got to learn moves and kick the shit out of dudes. A little bit of Metroidvania, but more like an action platformer beat-em-up, if I'm not mistaken. I've played about 5 hours of this. Really enjoyed it. Takes place in Taipei, Taiwan, which I've never played a game that takes place there. So I just think that's so interesting. A lot of cool kung fu moves here. Excellent, excellent game from what I've played. Yet to open the PS5 one. Made of Skur. I don't know. Made of Skur. Isn't that interesting, Byron? I'm glad somebody thinks it's interesting. Thank you. I think it's cool. Made of Skur is a pretty hard to find limited run game at this point. I got it for retail price, obviously, because they're obligated by law to sell it at retail price at their store. They can't sell more than their retail price. So this one looks cool. Again, not exactly sure if it's more of a kind of immersive, non-defensive, non-offensive kind of game where you're just kind of running away from dudes. I don't know. But this is the limited run enhanced version. Bloober Team, the guys who did Silent Hill remake, which is phenomenal, also did this game. This is an independent game called The Medium. Very cool gimmick, or concept, I should say, where you play in two parallel dimensions. And I don't know much else about it besides that, but you basically control the same character through two different time realms. And, do one thing in the present that will affect the future, vice versa, whatever. It looks interesting to me. It definitely looks like a Silent Hill game in its atmosphere and vibe, which is why they were chosen to make the Silent Hill game, I would imagine. This is the third in the Metro series here. I've yet to play it because I still haven't played the second one. I'm still enjoying my memories of playing the first one a couple of years ago. This one is more open world, kind of a lot bigger budget. So good on them for making money from their indie games or AA games and making a slightly bigger game. MLB The Show 21. I always have one of these MLB games because I am a fan of baseball, and every once in a while I get the hankering to play a baseball game. And 2021 is one of the better ones that's come out, I've read. I've played it. It is good if you're a baseball fan. Moonscars, another 2D kind of Castlevania-inspired, a little bit of Metroidvania-inspired, Dark Souls-like action-adventure game. Gets very, very hard very quickly, but you do start to catch up with its difficulty because you get rather overpowered by the end of this game, which makes the game a lot of fun. You're ripping through it. Does get a little stale in its diversity of environment and setting, even in terms of combat and enemies. But it is a solid little game and doesn't overstay its welcome. I think Moonscars is definitely worth like spending $20-30 on it. Very, very heavy metal inspired design. Very cool though. Another, Souls-like game here that I did play through and beat, and has a really interesting gimmick where you turn yourself into a shell to block enemy attacks, and then that regenerates, and you can use it again and again. And once you master that, this game does become a little easier, but it takes some time to master that. It has a learning curve. This edition comes with all this cool swag and little art books and stuff like that. And a lot of these deluxe editions that you can get from overseas are about the same price as their American counterparts. I don't care if it's from overseas. I think this is a cool version of a game that I do enjoy. So definitely an independent title, though. Not much of a budget behind it, and so it makes it even more impressive with what they could pull off. Observer, this is another Bloober Team game, the guys who did the Silent Hill remake and Medium. This is more of a cyberpunk game where they hired Rutger Hauer, who played in Blade Runner, obviously, as the famous replicant with the famous Tears in the Rain improv. So they hire him to have a role in this game before his death, rest in peace. And I hear really cool, immersive, creepy things about this cyberpunk adventure that looks a lot like Blade Runner. So if it's anything like Blade Runner, I will be a happy boy. Next up, we have... This is a AAA game, or a smaller AAA game, I guess, by a big company, Ubisoft, called Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This kind of brings Prince of Persia back to its side-scrolling roots, but instead of its cinematic platforming, it brings us a Metroidvania adventure, which is a great decision. Really makes for an incredibly fun and fluid experience, kind of rushing through this world, getting more powerful, getting to the point where you can manipulate time, sort of like in the Sands of Time. So it takes all the things that are cool about the old 2D one and blends it with the things that are cool about the 3D one and brings us this new 2D, 2.5D, side-scrolling Metroidvania experience with great boss fights, very brutal and difficult, trial and error kind of thing. But I loved this game. I didn't finish it for whatever reason. It happens. But I did play it for a good 10 or 15 hours. Really impressed with what Ubisoft did here. But man, their bigger games, they seem to not be doing too well on. Nice. You played Prince of Persia? Yeah, it's a fun series. Proteus or Prodeus. This one has an incredibly cool, modern 3D voxel or pixel art, 3D pixel art style, we'll say. It is a boomer shooter, so it's fast-paced, addictive kind of gameplay where you're zooming in and out of rooms and destroying everything, looking for secrets. But what separates this from the pack of boomer shooters is its incredibly cool art style. Once you guys see it, it's hard to tell from here. But check out a video of Proteus and you'll see what I mean. It's a beautiful game. R-Type, one of the most resilient shooter franchises that still exists to this day. I have a feeling this PS5 version of this game is going to get rather expensive because it comes with a few different games, if I'm not mistaken. It has R-Type Final 2. R-Type Final 3 is kind of a added-on version to R-Type Final 2, if I'm not mistaken. So it kind of combines the last few R-Type games and brings you a couple different experiences. But god damn is this game hard. I suck at shooters. Even though once in a while I get addicted to one and I beat it. Remnant 2 is a game I've yet to play, but if it's anything like Remnant Run and better, I will certainly be enjoying this game for what it is. So, Remnant 2, if it's anything like the first one, I'll be a happy camper. Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village. This is one of my favorite Resident Evil games ever. I've beaten this game on easy, normal, hard, and the Village of Shadows. I've beaten this game on every difficulty. I've unlocked almost all of the achievements. I have infinite rocket launcher where you just go around blowing the shit out of everything infinitely. It's so much fun. Really makes speed running like a thing that's achievable. But I played this over and over like 6 or 7 times when I played it through it the first time. Dumped like 50 hours into it. Never did that with a Resident Evil game before, but goddamn, Village was awesome. And the version I played 100 times was the third-person mode. I think the third-person mode, which came with the brand new Gold Edition and some of the, the DLC there. Play this in third person. I think it's even better than first person. It's so amazing. A game that admittedly defeated me. Returnal, I played this for a solid 15 hours, got to World 3, and oh my god, it got so frustrating having to fight your way through those worlds again and getting frustrated and dying and having to start from the beginning. This is a roguelike game that, man, is it a little too punishing? Maybe, but the story unfolds. It's really cool, very unique. Great gameplay. The mechanics in this game work incredibly well. The gameplay is so addictive. And once you master it, the learning curve, it becomes so much fun. You become so overpowered and powerful. But like any roguelike, you come up to a point where you just can't win. And then you have to learn and repeat the cycle, rinse and repeat. Now, why do I love this game so much, despite its difficulty? Housemarque. Housemarque, I talked about a few times. Nex Machina, Resogun, a lot of great games. They finally got a shot at a AA title. Sony gave them some money and said, let's see what you got. And they made an incredible game that is getting a sequel. So, yeah. Let's see. Byron says, I used to play The Sims as a vampire and murder everyone. Take over the entire city. Does that count as a shooter game? Not quite, but that's an awesome thing to do in a game. Jolly Good says, don't ruin your eyes for 10 hours. Yeah. Let's see. That's what playing games for a long time can do. It makes you feel dizzy. RoboCop Rogue City by Nacon, published by Nacon, and developed by Teon, who also did Terminator Resistance. So these guys are actually making authentic to the original IP and movie licensed games. RoboCop feels just like the RoboCop movie, guys. If you want to feel what it's like to be RoboCop, Peter Weller comes back to voice RoboCop. You're working in the police station. You're going out and fighting crime. Very narrative based, so it does follow a story. It's not open world or anything. It follows the story pretty closely, but you get to shoot at guys in the face and their heads explode, and that never gets old, let me tell you. You can shoot their limbs off. You feel so overpowered, and you walk with this weight to RoboCop. Poof, poof, poof. It's so awesome, and you do get more overpowered as the game progresses, and it's fantastic. I played through this and plan to do so again. Absolutely. I think taking a break from all things that we enjoy is a good idea. I don't know about a month, but yeah, that would be healthy. I just don't know if I'm that healthy. Scarlet Nexus, Bandai Namco, is a game that I definitely want to play. I hear it's kind of like Devil May Cry meets a Souls-like kind of game, but tells a very cool story about AI or like things hacking our minds and stuff like that. We are all connected. It's called Brain Punk. They dub it a Brain Punk game. So kind of cyberpunk, but a kind of AI punk. Looks cool. Looks very Japanese. Do I see guts in RoboCop? Maybe not guts, but lots of gore. Evisceration, that's not something you see too much in games. That's like for Dead Space, you know? Next up, we have really interesting game here that I knew I had to pick up soon before it got out of hand, price-wise. This is a real nice steelbook here of a game called Scorn. This is a horror game heavily influenced by H.R. Giger's artwork, if you could see there, the sort of biomechanic, hyper-sexualized phallic artwork that Giger was known for. Definitely is translated incredibly well into this game. You'd think he worked on it. But the people that made this obviously were very in tune with his art style. Don't think this one has much action. I think it's more puzzle-based and definitely more of an environmental puzzle game than anything else, and an immersive narrative experience that's supposed to be rather creepy and rather dismal and brooding. So definitely excited to play that and knew I wanted to pick it up before it gets pricey. You're in this hobby long enough and you get feelings for what's going to be pricey and what's not. And sometimes I'm wrong, obviously, but haven't been proven wrong with the PS5 yet. Bloober Team does Silent Hill 2, which is absolutely mind-blowingly good. I'd say overstays its welcome a tad bit. The original is a little bit more concise, but this game has an incredible gameplay loop. You don't upgrade much. You don't find new weapons. It's no RPG elements. You kind of have what you have, and you have to survive. You have to kill the enemies you could, run away from others. You have to be very strategic. The story is fantastic, speaks deeply to trauma and the implications of trauma in our own lives and in others, and how we deal with that trauma, how we build structures in our minds of how to mitigate those traumas, and how those things can sometimes devour us in and of themselves. I think it's a powerful story and a fantastic survival horror game. One of the better Sonic games I've played in quite some time, I'd say within the last 10 years for sure for me, since Sonic Colors. And I really loved the gameplay loop of this game. Such a serene experience. It's a very solitary experience with ambient music and relies on its atmosphere and immersion to really send you to an ethereal world that looks kind of like ours, but, is uncanny enough to feel like a fantasy world. Now, there are vast areas for Sonic to explore. Each area is populated with these little mini games, essentially, these little coin runs where you have to find these items, and you collect these items. It's very addictive, and some of the platforming is very inventive and very creative. Boss fights are epic, even though it feels like you're not really too much in control. This game is awesome. I really had a lot of fun with it. It's not without. I have my complaints about it, but I did enjoy my time with it. I put a good 15 hours in, and then I was like, you know what? I'm good for now. I could see myself coming back to this and picking it up and playing it, because it does have pick up and play kind of gameplay. But I was pretty skeptical about this when it came out, but pleasantly surprised by the gameplay. Definitely inspired by Breath of the Wild, but does its own thing in the world of Sonic and Sega. It's a very, very meditative game, isn't it? I'm glad you enjoy it too, Jolly Good. Yeah, it's very relaxing, very chill, very zen. Here's a cool Souls-like game by Spiders. That's right, I already said Spiders developed this one, put out by Nacon. Puts out a lot of solid AA games. This was a French Revolution era, that's the backdrop, French Revolution, with these automaton puppets who defend the realm and carry out the revolution and all this stuff. So it's kind of fun in an alternative historical kind of way. The story's actually kind of cool and doesn't bore you with too many details. Just kind of keeps it simple. And Steel Rising, I love the main character. Isn't she awesome? I do have some complaints about this. I think the combat does get a little bit dry towards the end of the game. There's not much room for improvement or upgrading, and overstays its welcome by a couple hours, but I did play through it. I did beat it. I will say this game hides its secrets very, very well. Just as good as From Software, in my opinion, if not better. There were some really cool secrets that I would be like, there's probably nothing over here. Oh, holy shit, there is something over here. That's how you do secrets, right? That's the right way to do it. Jolly Good says, not a fan of these puzzles from Sonic Frontiers, but I have used cheat. Yeah, hey, sometimes you got to use cheats. That's okay. I'm stubborn. I like to figure it out or not play it. Yeah. It depends on my mood, but sometimes I want to chop things up. Sometimes I want to do puzzles. I have one puzzle game for every console, pretty much. And I'm talking like Tetris-style puzzle. But I'm a big fan of environmental puzzles like this game has, like Stray has. This is an adventure game with platforming elements where you play as a kitty cat, who looks a lot like Gory, by the way. Doesn't it? Because they're both a tabby cat there, so I wonder if they're connected. But no, they're not. This was a really impressive game that is getting a sequel. I think this game is so relaxing. Again, a very, very smooth and sleek cyberpunk setting that they really flesh out well. Some incredibly intense action sequences. This game is supremely cinematic and never really gives up that mirage of cinematicness, because you're always doing something. You're always progressing. You're never really stuck in this game, even if you're at a point where you're exploring a little bit more. Stray is a beautiful game. Can't wait to play the sequel. Another very somber atmosphere and mood to it, but a game that I think is so freaking cool, and was really taken aback by when I played it. Dystopian Stray Cats, exactly. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. It's so cool. Jolly Good says, I'm a big Garfield person, but I do like cats sometimes. It must be hard to go out if you look like a big Garfield person, Jolly Good. I'm just kidding. No, I understand what you mean. I never got into Garfield. Not really my kind of thing, but I get his appeal for sure. I'm not really a cat guy. Stick, my brother's cat, is making me one, though. Another game I knew I wanted to pick up before it gets out of hand in terms of price. This is a remake that came out of nowhere. A ground-up remake of a classic game by the makers of BioShock. They actually made System Shock 1 and 2 before BioShock. Not many people know. But System Shock, this is a reboot, ground up remake of a classic PC game that honestly needed a reboot because, man, there are some things in the original game that are rather convoluted and hard to figure out. I hear this game retains some of that, which is good, but hopefully it smooths out some of the rough edges that prevented me from completing System Shock back in the day. System Shock 2 is excellent. That game I did complete back in the day. I'd love a reboot of that. That would be incredible. Terminator Resistance, I hear this is a very good Terminator game. Developed by the same guys who did the RoboCop one more recently. I hear this is great. Takes place during the actual, after Judgment Day, during the future war. So, really looking forward to that. I hear it's somewhat open world. Reminds me of Fallout. Next up, we have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. This is a game connected to the Borderland games, which I've never played, admittedly. But this one I got for like $3 at a pawn shop, and I was like, you know what? Let's give this Dungeons and Dragons inspired first-person shooter that looks way over the top and bonkers. Let's give this a shot. Maybe I'll like this more than the Borderlands world. I'm not sure. It still looks to be like a looter shooter. But I'm going to give it a shot at some point. I bet y'all enjoy it. It was $2 or $3. You can't go wrong. Trek to Yomi. This is for my old samurai fans out there, the old samurai movies that we all know and love by Kurosawa and many, many others. This is a 2D style samurai game, which takes advantage of lighting in black and white. This is in black and white. You have silhouetted images having sword fights. Looks so cool to me. Looks very cinematic, and I've yet to pick this one up and play it, but if this game wasn't made for people like me, I'm not sure which games are. This is an independent title done in a Akira Kurosawa style, even down to the 2D look of it, and this thing looks so cool, and I knew I needed a physical version of that. Byron says, I played a game with my partner called It Takes Two. Oh yeah, that's a great game to play with more than one person. Pretty calm and fun, puzzly and teamworky. Yes, very chill game. Definitely has its own vibe to it, right? Wonderlands looks fun. Yeah, it does look fun. I'll give it a shot. Next up, we have Trepang 2. Very strange name. I guess the sequel to Trepang 3, which I've never played. I don't think that has a physical version. I think that was a PC game. And this one here is a very intense, well-made, fast-paced first-person shooter. I guess you could say boomer shooter. More realistic graphics, great physics engine, great sound effects. Really makes you feel like you're doing damage. But I will say this one does have a bit of a learning curve that takes a little bit to get used to. And I need to sit down and actually get used to it because I tried it out and really enjoyed it. Yeah, I hear you, Byron. Black and white is a cool choice for a game. Not many games do go that route. Oh, man, this game... I went to GameStop last year. I don't go to GameStop often, but every once in a while I stop in for things like this. This is a totally unique-looking, psychedelic, almost... how do you say? It's like a psychedelic Miyazaki. It looks like frickin' Ralph Bakshi, but way, way more vibrant than any of his films could be. Psychedelic is the word for this. It's a very trippy game. Very strange combat. That's my main gripe with it. The combat's kind of weird. Some of the mechanics are strange. But this game carried me through with its very cool story and incredible art style. Again, just look at the colors here. The color carried me through in and of itself. Kind of like a roguelike. The roguelike elements are built into the story, so you kind of reset every once in a while and start at the beginning for a very specific narratively driven reason that actually does make sense. I think it's cool. This comes with, a digital art book, digital soundtrack, stuff like this. The music really was special in this movie, or in this game. Very atmospheric and ambient. But yeah, this always reminded me of like a psychedelic Miyazaki. Like if Miyazaki got loaded up on psilocybin and made a movie. This is kind of the art style. Like, just look at this. It's so bizarre and unique. And last but not least, we have a game that definitely did not come out on the PS5 first. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this back in. Jeez. Hold on, guys. All right, so it's not working. The soundtrack is loose, but that's okay. Incredible music, one of the best games of all time. If you're a fan of Skyrim and open world action RPGs, you must play this game. It's an incredible game. Don't worry about playing 1 and 2, just play 3. Don't wait for 4, play 3. 3 is one of the best games ever made. You feel totally in the role of a badass monster hunter who investigates crimes and tries to get the bottom of what if monsters are committing these, or the worst monsters are committing these crimes like humans. And this is as complete of a version as you can get. Nice solid 60 frames, beautiful textures. This game came out like 12, 13 years ago and holds up, remarkably well. So yeah, you guys must play this game if you're a fan of high fantasy action RPGs. This is a must play, and it all has all the DLC and a soundtrack, physical soundtrack, which is freaking awesome. All right, let's see. I'm going to take a quick break. I am going to take a drink, and then I will do the original Xbox for you guys. Why not? And then I've got to eat. So I will go. But give me a minute. I'm going to use the bathroom, and then we're going to check out Xbox. And then next time we'll do Xbox 360, Xbox One, GameCube, and finally the Wii. And that will round out my video game collection. Be right back, folks. All right, guys. How's everybody doing? Want to check in with everybody, see how everybody is. Thank you for joining this live stream. Thank you for watching it on the archive. I really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. I've been getting tons of new subscribers, which is fantastic. I was hoping that the wheels would get turning, and they are. As long as I'm staying consistent, building the community, which is definitely what I want to do. And I'm so happy that a lot of you guys are still watching. Doing this makes me happier. So makes me a happier person. I love informing and educating and giving my opinion on things and my perspective. And hey, man, that's what this is all about. So feel free to give this a thumbs up. Share it around if you want to people who you think would find this kind of stuff cool. And yeah, give it a thumbs up. And the little bell for notifications for people who are subscribed, because that's how you get notified when I do a live stream. So, and I know a lot of people I've seen complain that they don't get notifications. So hit that little bell for notifications so that you do get alerted as to when I'm going live. I have a really cool idea coming that I've experimented with for the last month. And actually one of my subscribers commented, I've yet to respond to that, but they commented and said, hey, you should do this. I'm going to do live stream thrifting. I'm going to still do my long form thrifting videos, but I'm going to do live stream thrifts. So if I go somewhere I haven't been in a while, I'm going to do a live stream. So getting those notifications is going to be important, because these live streams might only be 2-3 minutes. They might be 15 minutes, depending on how much stuff they have. And it'll be really exciting, and it'll make the thrifting interactive, which is a really cool idea. Like I said, I've done a couple of these, so you may have seen these, and I immediately unlisted them because I didn't find anything. But once I get the wheels turning, I have some new ideas that I'm going to bring to the table. I've been doing more YouTube shorts. I think doing little thrifting shorts is fun. But anyway, guys, that's some plans for the near future here, and I'm trying to make order out of the chaos. So bear with me while I do so. The channel is going to be different than it was, but I'd like to stay true to its roots. So All right, guys, moving on to the Xbox. Sounds good, Byron. Yeah, being consistent is the key. You know, Plato, or Aristotle, was it, came up with the idea, a man is what he does, right? That applies to all humans, obviously. But a man is what he does. So if you read every day, well, then you're going to become an educated, you know, well-read person. If you play games every day, you're going to get better at games. If you exercise every day, you're going to get better at exercise. That's just the way it goes. A man is what he does. So choose wisely. All right, getting to the OG Xbox. OG Xbox, I'm a big fan of, but I gotta admit, I don't play it as often as I play PS2 because I pretty much always have the PS2 set up because it plays PS1 games. And I finally have a somewhat backwards compatible 360 in my collection, thanks to the Goodwill. And I actually found a PS4 at the Goodwill, too, today. I should have live streamed it. I'm an idiot, and I didn't. What do I collect for the Xbox? I collect games on the Xbox that are supposed to be better than their PS2 counterpart. That sometimes happens. I collect exclusives on the Xbox, of which there are many. And that's about it. And if I find a game out in the wild that's on the Xbox and PS2, and I don't have it, well, I'm going to pick up the Xbox One. But we'll talk about it as we go. This here, I don't own it for Sega GT02. I'm sure that's a decent racing game. Sega knows how to make racing games. I own this for Jet Set Radio Future, which is actually a great Sega exclusive for the Xbox here. Jet Set Radio Future was a sequel to Jet Grind Radio, or Jet Set Radio in Japan. And a Jet Grind Radio is one of the best games on the Dreamcast, and Jet Set Radio Future carries on tradition and makes another really fun and compelling and with great music. Another great game with great music. Yeah, I understand, Jolly Good. I understand. I'm a fan of good games, so if the console has some good games, which I definitely think it does, I'll be a fan. Oh, your cousin owned that one? Nice. Yeah, that's a good game. Here we have Advent Rising. This game is by David Cage. I want to say it's the first David Cage game. David Cage would become well known for... Wait a sec, is this... No, this is not David Cage. This is David Cage. Sorry about that, guys. This is David Cage, Quantic Dream, the guy who did Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Beyond Human, or whatever it's called. Advent Rising is something slightly different that I guess I don't know much about. Looks rather immersive, sci-fi, action. I'm not sure what that is. I was conflating that with something else. Ozarek. I always thought this looked like Avatar. This did come out before Avatar, but it kind of looks like the Na'vi. This is an open world action adventure game that I don't think many people talk about at all anymore. Exclusive to the Xbox, which is denoted here by this only on Xbox. That is true. To this day, I don't think there's any way to play Ozarek. It's a pretty interesting game that I do want to sit down and play through one day. Yeah, see, this says only on Xbox. You'll notice a lot of that. Bard's Tale. This is on the PS2. I'm not sure which version's supposed to be better. But this is a very tongue-in-cheek, very witty, Monty Python-esque humor. They even have, like, the Monty Python masks there. Very dry and witty British humor in this Bard's Tale kind of reboot. I've played a bit of this. It is a fun isometric action RPG. I wish it was 2 players. It's not. But this is a cool game. Beyond Good and Evil, a game that a lot of people have said many great things about. There has been a reboot in the making for a very long time that has never come into fruition. There was even a trailer a couple of years ago. Not sure what the status of that is, but this is a beautiful looking, almost Disney-inspired look here. Action-adventure kind of game. Looks very diverse in its gameplay mechanics. And yeah, I hear great things about this, so I do need to sit down and play that one day. Blinks. I haven't played Blinks 2, but I played a bit of Blinks 1 back in the day. These are Microsoft exclusives, 3D platformers with time manipulation mechanics, and I remember enjoying it for what it is, but Blinks never took off as the mascot that I think they were hoping for. Here we have Blood Rain. Yes, Uwe Boll would go on to make a movie about this. Which one? None of these are from Rare, no. This is Microsoft Game Studios. Blood Rain, at the time, was an amazing Max Payne-esque action game where you shot up a whole bunch of vampires, sucked their blood for life. You end up with this giant arsenal. Again, a Max Payne ripoff with vampires, but that was fine by me. I haven't played this game in a long time. I'm hoping it holds up. One day I will check that out to see if it does so. And that also had a sequel, so. Okay, so Barzer Ali is asking if I have Astrobot for the PS5. I bought it when it came out. I played through it. I thought it was one of the best games of the year. I thought it was incredible. I hit a rough patch financially, and I knew I could get a quick $50 for it, so I had to sell it. And I do plan to get that back in the collection at some point. It hurt me to get rid of that game because I had such a great experience with it. But sometimes it's the reason I don't own many of the first-party Nintendo games right now, because those always hold their value. And it's a quick way to make money if you have to for rent or for whatever issues that your car or whatever. So I'm sad to say Astrobot I had to relinquish for now. But it'll become cheaper and I will grab it again. Here we have Bloodwake. This is a Microsoft Game Studio game that I always thought looked rather fun. It's kind of like reminds me of Crimson Skies, but on the water, kind of like Waterworld almost. The whole game takes place on the water. You blow shit up, you complete missions, that kind of stuff. It looks fun. A game that I had a great time back in the day, kind of a squad-based shooter. I used to play this with my brother and my friends all the time. Kind of a cheesy shooter now, but still kind of fun. You can still have some fun with this. My brother and I played through a few levels recently, and we were like, yeah, it's not bad. It's nostalgic. It's cool. The graphics don't hold up too great, but here we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This one, Xbox exclusive. This one is like an action-adventure, survival horror kind of game based on the old Buffy show, of which I was a big fan in the 90s. Who wasn't? And yeah, this game looks right up my alley and exclusive to the Xbox. This one I thought was exclusive too. Barzy says, as long as you've played it, you do not need to buy it again. I hear you, but they just added like a whole bunch of free levels and stuff, and I'm like, God damn it, I wish I still had it. When a game company continues to support a game like that with free downloadable content, man, that's something I want to support. So I do plan to buy it at some point, but you're right, they did get my money off the first-hand market, and I'm glad I supported them because I want to see more games like that, man. Like, that was an incredible experience. Yeah, Buffy game. And you know what's cool, Byron? It's supposed to be a pretty damn good game. So, Call of Cthulhu. This is the Dark Corners of Earth. This is a first-person action-adventure survival horror Lovecraftian game here with a dynamic sanity system. I hear this is a very unique game. I've heard it compared to Eternal Darkness in some ways, but I hear this gets the Lovecraftian lore very well, kind of gets under your skin, makes you feel like you're going crazy. And yeah, looking forward to playing that one day. Castlevania Curse of Darkness. I am a fan of the 3D Castlevania games, not as much as the 2D Castlevania Metroid-inspired games, or even the original 2D NES-style ones. But I do enjoy each style of Castlevania game, and the 3D ones are not bad. I especially liked Lords of Shadow, but I do want to go back and play this through. I've only played this a little bit, but I've heard good things. There is one that's on the Lament of Darkness, I think. It's on exclusive to the PS2. Burnout the Takedown. This game is so fucking fun. You could just get together with your friends and just crash and rack up points and cause as much chaos as humanly possible. It's an awesome game. One of the best Burnout games for sure. Underrated first-person, immersive, kind of first-person, story-driven RPG, first-person shooter here. The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay is awesome. Exclusive to the Xbox, except for when it came to the PS3 on the Chronicles of Riddick. What was it? Dark Athena. So, sorry guys, trying to read the comments and I'm getting all screwed up here. Let's see. Barzy Ali says, I had an Xbox Series X. I switched to PS5. There are no games for it, literally. Well, I mean, I have more than enough games for the PS5 that I'm happy with, that I've played through and enjoy. So I think a lot of people complain about the state of modern games, and I agree. I think it's in shambles, the AAA stuff. But all the good stuff is in the AA and indie markets, so you just got to look for what suits you. I promise there's games out there. But yeah, AAA, just like Hollywood, they're faltering, and we shouldn't support them. Yeah, Burnout 3 was awesome too. But yeah, this is a great story-driven game where you just have to escape from this prison. You use stealth. You play as Vin Diesel. How can you go wrong? Circus Maximus, you know, I don't know. This is like an action game with chariot racing. So I always thought that was a cool idea. So I definitely have to give that a shot. Conquer Live and Reloaded. I remember I picked this up at a thrift shop rather recently. After playing the first game through in toto, and I really enjoyed the original game. I thought it was so unique and inventive and creative with its puzzles and always throwing something new at you. This game, I'm not sure if I'll enjoy it as much. I hear that it censors the game quite a bit, takes out some memorable moments from the original game, and I'm not for censorship. So if they took things out and made it worse, that's not ideal. But hey, I will try it at some point. Still has the NC-17 rating. Yeah, it's in good shape. One light scratch, but I can get that fixed. Let's see. Byron says I have an NES, PS1, both versions, and a PS2 and a Switch, and I feel totally fine. Absolutely. You could play games for the rest of your life with that stuff. PS2 is one of the best systems ever. I agree. I'm not a huge action flight kind of gamer. But this one is arcadey enough and Indiana Jones-like enough for me to really enjoy the gameplay here. I actually sat and played through this game in one day back in the day and really enjoyed this. They're always throwing something diverse in terms of missions at you and really good dialogue, very cinematic, great John Williams-inspired game music. And Nathan Zachary. Yeah, there's your Indiana Jones-like character. Kind of looks like Nathan Drake, no? Let's see. Curse, the Eye of Isis. I think this is exclusive to the Xbox. Maybe it has a PC version. This is a straight-up survival horror game that looks right up my alley. That takes place in Egypt with Egyptian catacombs and pyramids and during the Victorian era and all that cool stuff. So this looks right up my alley. One day I will sit down and play through that for sure. Very Japanese-inspired horror cover there, though, huh? Rare Replay. Yes, Rare Replay is one that I do have. Dark Watch is a Capcom-published first-person shooter with such a cool character that kind of reminds me of Solomon Kane with double pistols. You know, that design is freaking awesome. And this is a fast-paced boomer shooter, if you will, that never lets up. It's relentless. You're always shooting at dudes in your old Western style, with your old Western style guns. These crazy pseudo-Lovecraftian environments and enemy designs, and really, really neat. So, yeah, you'll be able to watch this on the the archive, Bardsey. And I talk about all the PS5 games I have in depth. And I justify why picking these up was important to me and why I enjoy them. So this one I recently added to the collection. I got it for $99 cents at the Goodwill. Now you might be asking yourself, Mike, why did you pick up a game based on the Cat in the Hat movie? Well, because I've read and seen that this is a 2.5D platformer, not unlike Pandemonium from back in the day, not unlike Klonoa. I hear this is a Klonoa Lunatea's Veil ripoff, the second game. And that sounds like it's at least worth me giving a shot to. I hear it's a little too simple. It's more geared towards children. I still need to see the Mike Myers movie. I actually do want to see that now and see how that holds up. It looks absolutely bananas. But, yeah, so if this is a 2.5D platformer with decent mechanics, I'm kind of excited to try it out. So, it looks interesting, right? Yeah, and I've read some decent things about it. Dead or Alive 1 and 2, this is the Ultimate Edition. I found this at Goodwill years ago. Collected both of the games nice and easily on the Xbox. I think these originally came out on the PS1, right? Or at least the first one did. And my favorite of the three, a very how do you say this game was cool because, well, first of all, it had hot female characters with big boobies, so us young men, we really liked that in my teenage years. But the claim to fame for this was that you could knock people into different parts of the level. I still think that's a really cool gimmick for fighting games to employ, and this game looked so impressive for the time and still does have that kind of glossy cinematic look with the motion blur and everything. This is such a cool game. Great game to play with people. Even the single player was fun. I wish I had the non-platinum hits version, but that's okay. I'll get it at some point. There you go, Bartsy. Yeah, I'm about to finish this one up, so if you want to finish this one up, and then you'll be able to catch up on it and see what I said about the other games, you know. I am going to archive it, so it's not like this is going to disappear into the ether. Dead to Rights, a really cool Namco game here. Definitely inspired, influenced by the Max Payne hype of the time, sort of Max Payne Rockstar hype of the time. This one's gimmick is that you have a dog that you could sick on enemies to make your life a little bit easier while you're taking dudes hostage and bucking machine guns at dudes' faces. Stripper mini games, you know, all sorts of cool stuff that, you know, when I was 15 years old, I was definitely excited for, if you know what I mean. Death Row Underground Team Combat. I've heard really good things about this exclusive game to the Xbox. It is a fighting game, kind of an arena fighting game, but I have fun with these with my brother Thomas every once in a while. Here we have Deus Ex game that I've never played. I've played the first one and the later ones, but this one I missed, Invisible War. And cyberpunk, first-person shooter, story-driven, technologically based. You know, it has a lot of technological upgrades and sort of, what's the word, transhumanistic, bio-organic upgrades in this game that make kind of separate it from the rest. But I remember the original having such a cool, unique atmosphere and world on the PC, and it was a little over my head at the time, but I thought it was so cool. Dr. Muto is a really interesting-looking 3D platformer. This was a great era for forgotten 3D platformers like Whiplash and like Dr. Muto, and this one looks really cool. I've yet to play it. I think I played a demo of it back in the day, and it stuck with me, which is why I wanted to pick it up. This one I think is also on PS2, but here we have Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind Game of the Year Edition. I would like to sit down and play through this one day. I'm hoping this gets some sort of a ground-up remake like Oblivion did, because I do think I've tried to play this a few times, and I thought that it was a bit dated. I did, and it was hard for me to get into its obtuseness. I feel the same way about Oblivion in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. But the upgrades to Oblivion definitely made it a little easier for me to play. So I do like Morrowind, or I was intrigued by Morrowind when I played it, but I thought it was a little too dated for me. What is that right there? Looks like a fork. Like a fork that a telekinetic person has been through. We've got Fable, Xbox, Microsoft's answer to The Legend of Zelda. And you know what? I think it separated itself rather nicely. Had this really cool system where you could make good decisions or bad decisions, good or evil, and you can kind of choose your path in life, and that was a very interesting thing. Had some kind of life simulation elements, if I remember correctly. I know the second and third ones did. A very fun action-adventure game in the style of Zelda, but with its own Western touch to it that does separate it from the pack with a really quirky sense of humor. Okay, we're getting down to the last shelf of the original Xbox stuff here. Turn on my lights. Here we have the only disc game that's actually in my shelf, just because it's in an actual Xbox case. That is Fatal Frame, a game that I have tried to beat, and God almighty was it difficult. But I do have 2 and 3, which I plan to play. Those are on the PS2. Grabbed by the Ghoulies. There you go. There's a rare game. One of the last rare games that I think was worth a crap. But I do want to try this one out. I've yet to play it, but Rare in this era was still doing some pretty good stuff. And Grabbed by the Ghoulies. It's got a great title. I'm actually playing through Donkey Kong Country 2 right now. Yeah, never played it much. I hear you. Me neither. Gun by Neversoft, the guys who did Tony Hawk. They did this little Western action game that came out around the same time as Red Dead Redemption Red Dead Revolver, and really got overshadowed by the Rockstar game, the Rockstar output there. But this game is a fun action game. I remember playing it quite a bit. My brother actually played through it recently, said it holds up pretty well. This game is so freaking cool if you can get past the learning curve of the controls. This is such a great anime-inspired Sega exclusive for the Xbox called Gun Valkyrie. If you're a fan of old school anime like I am, Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that, especially early, 90s and early 2000s, like Standalone Complex, this is a great game. Check this out, guys. Totally unique to the Xbox. I have not played Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but my brother and I have talked about it, actually. Here we have the classics. I don't have to go into... These games are excellent. Two of the best first-person shooters ever made. This, I have fond memories of opening this on Christmas morning '01, and my father and I sitting down and playing this co-op campaign. I thought that was so cool at the time. I have great memories of that. Still holds up remarkably well. I do want to actually play through it at some point again. And Halo 2, just as good as 1, if not better. The only 2 that I've actually sat and beat in the Halo series. Yes, that will be in my next live stream, but a sneak peek here at the GameCube stuff. Hitman 2, Platinum Edition, I'm not huge on, with a whole bunch of residue from stickers, but I do like the Hitman series. I would like to sit down and play through the series at some point. Never really did that. The Hobbit, yeah. Prelude to the Lord of the Rings, put out by Sierra. Official game of the J.R.R. Tolkien. Yeah, so this came out after the movie started coming out, Lord of the Rings, and has a really cute Zelda-like style, and that's what it reminds me of. If it's anything like Legend of Zelda, I think I'll enjoy it because it's Lord of the Rings. And again, a very cutesy kind of style that differentiated it from the films and from some of the other games that were closer to the look of the films. Yeah, he does. Or Chucky, right? Let's see. The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. This game is supposed to be excellent. A lot of fun, cathartic fun, destroying things, running around. You feel super powerful as Hulk, I have heard. I heard this is one of the better pre-Arkham City superhero games that came out. So, I do want to try that. Here's David Cage, Quantic Dream, their first game, Indigo Prophecy, which I hear is very good, just like the rest of their stuff. You can make a lot of very important decisions. It's more of a narrative, cinematic kind of story that you interact with, and it immerses you into the gameplay. Sometimes you have to do quick time events, sometimes gunfights, sometimes you have to run away, solve puzzles, and all of that has implications on how the game unfolds. David Cage is a brilliant game designer, no question. Heavy Rain being my favorite. Such a cool experience, especially with people. BioWare did this little unknown game, Jade Empire, before they would get very popular for Dragon Age and Mass Effect. But this little period piece, Chinese-inspired action-adventure RPG game with branching dialogue. And I've heard very good things about this year or about this game, and one day I will certainly play it. Yeah, this one was an exclusive to Xbox again. Another exclusive to Xbox, Kingdom Under Fire, The Crusaders. This game looks cool. It kind of reminds me of Kessen. I'm not sure if it's a strategy game or if it's a Dynasty Warriors-like game. I'm not exactly sure, but it was made by Microsoft, put out by Microsoft, and Fantagram. I want all the exclusives, because this was at a time where Xbox was really trying to separate itself from the other companies by creating their own exclusives and having exclusive third-party support by Sega and places like that. Maybe not exclusive, but you know what I mean. It was close to. They had a lot of exclusives that they only brought to Xbox Sega. Here is Legacy of Kain Defiance. This is one of the later Legacy of Kain games that I've yet to play. And looks a lot of fun. Looks like the rest of the Legacy of Kain games. Let's see. They do. Xbox cases match Shrek's color. Yes, they do. I like the green cases. Mad Dash Racing. I love Mad Dash Racing. Great music, very of its time. Fatboy Slim. But this separated itself from Mario Kart because you were a bunch of different quirky little Microsoft characters who all ran to the finish line. So you were running all over the place instead of using carts, and very unique, still holds up well if you can get around the controls. Guys, we got 20% battery, so I'm going to start moving. Mark Echoes Getting Up. I haven't played this since I was a kid. It reminded me of Jet Grind Radio and Grand Theft Auto kind of smushed together, where you're doing graffiti, you're battling, you know, former graffiti artists and stuff. Max Payne, I own this on Xbox because I also have it on the PC, but I think the Xbox version is the best console version. I play it once a year at least. Same thing here. I play this once a year. Remedy, at the peak of their game design, or maybe not the peak, but God, this is where it gets started. I love this game. I love it to death. I'm very nostalgic for it. I think the gameplay still holds up. And Remedy is working on a ground-up remake. Can't fucking wait. Yes, Jack. That's why it reminds me of Jet Grind Radio. Here we have Metal Arms Glitch in the System, a Sierra put-out game here. Looks like a Ratchet and Clank action platformer kind of thing with a whole bunch of different weapons and technology and sort of vehicles. Don't know much about it, but it looks kind of cool. I've heard decent things about this Mission Impossible game, Operation Surma, so I picked this up at a thrift store at some point. I'm a fan of the N64 one, so if this one continues with a diverse set of different kinds of gameplay elements and things like that, I think I'll enjoy it. I'm a big fan of the movies, so. MLB Slugfest 03, these are great midway arcadey sports games. They put out Slugfest, Blitz, Hits. They even did one for soccer, didn't they? I think. But I love a good, fun baseball game. So, NFL Blitz Pro, one of the recent additions. I found this at a Goodwill about 2 weeks ago. Perfect condition, Blitz Pro, one of the last Blitz games, I'm pretty sure, to come out. So, if this retains the fun arcadey style of the Blitz games, my brothers and I will have some fun. NFL Street still holds up great. Oh yeah, NHL Hits is awesome. The NFL Street games, including NBA Street, they still hold up remarkably well. We used to get off of high school and leave high school early to play these games at my house. We would pick up like Mountain Dew and or what was it at the time? 7-Up we used to drink. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge. Now, you may be asking yourself, why do you have this shitty movie-based game? Well, I hear this is not a shitty movie-based game. I hear this is a good movie-based game that steals all of its mechanics from Devil May Cry. So we have a Devil May Cry Nightmare Before Christmas game. That sounds totally up my alley, and I hope to play this one day. You have that one on the PS2? Nice. Yeah, very cool. We have Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black, exclusive to Xbox. Team Ninja, really bringing back old school hard even earlier than the From Software would do with the Souls-like games like Demon Souls. I think From Software definitely saw the potential of a hard game becoming mainstream, or Team Ninja saw that during the Xbox era, and this game was very popular. Still haven't beaten it, if I'm being honest. I got stuck on that fucking bone dragon. Makes me want to harm myself with sharp objects. So therefore, I've never played in Black. Black is I believe a upgrade, right? An upgraded version of Ninja Gaiden. Gaiden. Absolutely jolly good. You can always make fun of the announcers. We have Oddworld, Munch's Odyssey, one of the games that really captured my imagination at the launch of the Xbox. I was like, ooh, that looks so different, so cool. I want to try that. And I got to be honest, I've never been able to really get absorbed in it, even though I try every few years to get absorbed in it. And maybe one day I'll be different enough as a person to be able to enjoy these games. I love their humor. I love the world that they create. It's very surreal. Reminds me of games like Shadow of the Beast and sort of that era of gaming. It's a very unique world that they build with like fart humor and, gross humor. Outrun 2, the other Outrun game for the Xbox, is super expensive now. But I'm happy to have Outrun 2, which is a phenomenal Outrun game. It's beautiful, fast, high frame rate, but retains the fun gameplay of the original Outrun. Painkiller is a PC franchise that finally came to the Xbox during this era. I've heard great things about it. Fast-paced, Serious Sam-like, Doom-like shooter, so I do want to play that. Panzer Dragoon Orta, an on-rails shooter that is a sequel to the original games that were on the Saturn. I have one of them, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. And then we have Orta here. Orta is an absolutely beautiful game, and I haven't beaten any of these, if I'm being honest with you. I've tried all of them, but I haven't sat down and beat them, but I do want to do that. They do get pretty difficult, and you really have to learn the controls and how it functions. Perfect Dark Zero was the first game I played on the 360. This exact copy, actually. I think I lost the slipcover. But this game was great for the time, but definitely was a disappointment when comparing it to the original Rare game, Perfect Dark. I think Rare may have worked on this, but yeah, they did. But it had a great graphical style that really blew my mind and pushed the limits. But I couldn't really get into the game for whatever reason, and I was obsessed with the N64 one. So Joanna Dark is awesome, though. Hope she comes back. Sid Meier's Pirates, Live the Life of the Pirate. This one, Sid Meier's Pirates has made its way to every single console imaginable. So this started out as a PC pirate simulator, and that's what it is on the Xbox. It's a pirate simulator, but it's a very good one and a very addictive one with many different styles of gameplay that all come together very well. Yes, Outrunners Arcade. Yeah, I used to play that one in the arcades, actually, quite a bit. Another pirate game that's supposed to be great. We've got Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, why is this supposed to be good? Because it was not meant to be a Pirates of the Caribbean game. It was a different series that the company was working on that I forget what the name of the original series was. But because Pirates was coming out and it was hot, Bethesda teamed up with that studio and made what I hear is a very good action-adventure pirate game. So, and developed, or not developed, but, you know, actually, it may have been partially developed by Bethesda. I'm not sure. Maybe it was developed by other teams and overseen by Bethesda. But this looks like a good one. Ties in some of the themes of the game and some of the characters. So I think I'll enjoy it if I can give it the time and try to get into it. Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. I haven't gotten into those, but I would like to. This was one of the racing games I've played the most in my life. It and its sequel there. Project Gotham Racing was so addictive. This series started on the Dreamcast, if I'm not mistaken, Metropolitan Street Racer. And, but this is where I first played it. Didn't know it was a sequel at the time. But this is a very arcade. It balances the arcadiness and the simulation very well. So I was a big GT Gran Turismo fan. And when this came along, it gave you that arcade edge to the simulation, and I really preferred this for a long time. I still remember, doing drifts and getting kudos and stuff like that, and unlocking things, and just a really fun, well-made racing game for fans of game. People that aren't necessarily really into racing games. These two games are a blast, so I recommend them highly. Beautiful-looking games for the time too. Really push the limits of the console. Project Snowblind. I don't know, it looks like a really unique first-person, or a really cool first-person shooter. Maybe not unique, maybe a bit generic-looking, but you never know. I want to give it a shot and see how it plays. Here we have Psyops, a game that I've wanted to play for many years. Always reminded me of a little bit of Max Payne and its physics engine and its gunplay, but it deals with telekinesis, things that Remedy would implement into Control later on. And I've always thought this looks cool. This was close to a launch title for the console. Psychonauts by, what's his name, Tim Schafer, the old legendary LucasArts point-and-click adventure game designer who did games like, I'm pretty sure, Grim Fandango. I know he did Full Throttle, Day of the Tentacle, games like that. This, he deviates a little bit and gives us an action platformer with adventure elements. And a very trippy, psychedelic world. Very unique and inventive and totally from the mind of this one guy, Tim Schafer, who's got a twisted mind for sure. And I've played a bit of this and haven't, unfortunately, given it the time to get into it. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood. That's the thing. I test a lot of games out and then I'm like, yeah, I'm not in the mood for this right now, but I think it's cool. That's kind of how I see what kind of games I'm going to be playing. Rayman 3, I've yet to play, actually. This is a 3D platformer version of the Rayman series. I didn't play 2 or 3. Second Sight. This looks like a crazy from the creators of Time Splitter, so that's a good sign. This looks like a crazy first-person shooter. Has some gimmicks, has some stealth, has some combat, it looks like. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to trying that. I love that this has a physical version, that I can get all these old arcade games that I used to love and play at the arcades in one 3-game bundle, Silent Scope. Now, I wish I had that, because that is awesome. I'd love to play the game with that thing, but I don't have it. But this is a cool arcadey sniper game here, light gun sniper game. Very unique gameplay. Jolly Good says, I've only played Rayman 3 a little bit, never got into the Rayman games. Yeah, I totally understand. Soldier of Fortune 2 Double Helix. I've actually heard really good things about, again, this Xbox exclusive. It may have been on the PC, but it wasn't on the PS2. And I hear this is a pretty brutal first-person army, war-based first-person shooter. So we'll give it a shot at some point. I got these games super cheap when they were at their cheapest. Sphinx, this game always intrigued me with its bubbly kind of Disney art style, or Pixar Disney kind of art style there. Kind of reminds me of Prince of Egypt even, which is not Disney, but this is a 3D platformer where you run around as this little guy with his buddy, mummy guy, I guess. I don't know, I haven't played this, but it definitely looks like Prince of Persia with an Egyptian twist. All right, we've got 16% battery. Spy Hunter 2, I actually really like the Spy Hunter reboot games, even more than the original arcade games. I just think they're freaking cool and make you feel like a secret agent. They kind of make you feel Bond. It's like a Bond game if it was just driving. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, I gotta be honest with you, I have not played. I tried to get into this, and the combat was like so fucking weird that I was like, I need more patience for this. Another time. Star Wars Obi-Wan is actually the Star Wars game that I played the most during the Xbox era, embarrassingly, to my chagrin. But this was a cooler game for me because it was more of an action game where you run around slicing dudes up with the lightsaber. And to be honest, we didn't get really... I think this may have been the first game where you could run around with a lightsaber on the consoles and chop dudes up. So yeah, he wants food, Jolly Good, the kitty, so I'll have to feed him soon. But I remember really enjoying this and then replaying it as an adult and going, okay, it's not great. But at the time, I liked it. Star Wars, and this was a launch title, if I'm not mistaken, so it was a big deal to get any games like on the console at this time. Star Wars Republic Commando. This, I hear, is a great squad-based shooter, first-person shooter in the Star Wars universe that I hear is one of the better Star Wars games ever made, so I gotta check that out at some point. My voice is starting to crack. I need water. Here we are. Stubbs the Zombie, Rebel Without a Pulse. This is right up my alley. 50s style B-movie satire here, where you play as a zombie and you go around eating people's brains. This game used to be super expensive because it was an exclusive Xbox game, as you could see there. But it did get more expensive than that, and then a little bit cheaper, and did end up getting a reboot. Yeah, this unfortunately has been resurfaced, but it still works, and got a reboot, I think, on the PS4 era. Here's a point-and-click adventure series, which I've always wanted to play, always intrigued me since the PC days, and this is called Siberia. It involves like a toy maker and a young woman who has to go explore the death of, like, I think her father. I forget what the details are, but I've always been intrigued by the way that this game looks, almost like it's steampunk kind of adventure game. Yeah, see, like, look at the design of those creatures there. I always thought that was cool. So I know these got re-released in like a trilogy on the Switch, or at least the first couple games. I'd like to get them all in one collection. That would be nice. I'd be okay to relinquish my Xbox One if I had those. Here we have Tak, the Great Juju Challenge. This was I think a trilogy, maybe 3 or 4 games in this franchise, based on like a Nickelodeon show, I want to say. These are supposed to be pretty good open-world platformers, or not open-world, but 3D platformers. They look cute, they look quirky. I know nothing about the IP, but it looks fun. Terminator Dawn of Fate, I've heard pretty good, decent things about this Terminator game. It looks like a Max Payne-inspired action game of the time, so throw in Terminators. I'll give it a shot. Why not? Here's Time Splitters. I love the first game. love the second game. Future Perfect is the third game, I believe, and I don't think I've played this one, if I'm being honest. But in the past streams, I did talk about what I love about Time Splitters, and I just love the conceit of having a level where you traverse to the end of it, fighting through bad guys, and then you turn around and you have to fight back to the beginning, but the level has changed. I think that's a great, simple dynamic. We've lost simple mechanics like that in games. Here we have Toe Jam and Earl, which I apparently picked up for $3 in 2016 at a thrift store. As you could tell, most of these I got super cheap when you could find this stuff. Mission to Earth. This is the third in the Toe Jam and Earl franchise. There is a fourth game now. But this one took it into a 3D, like sort of open world action adventure platformer. I hear really good things about this, but I've yet to play it. One thing I like about the Toe Jam and Earl games is that each of them are very different. So you have the first one, the second one, which is a 2D platformer. The first one's like an isometric exploration game. And the third one is a 3D platformer. I'm not sure if it retains any of the elements from the original games, but one day I will find out. Whoa. Huh. Okay, I don't own this game. My heart just fell to the bottom of my stomach. Why the fuck? Why isn't the disc in this? I've never played this, so I must have bought it without a disc. Or maybe I bought it for the case and then... Oh, man. This is me. This is the look of somebody who's disappointed. What the fuck? I thought I owned that. Hopefully it's not an expensive game. I feel like I need to look at all these games now at this point. Here we have the trilogy of Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, and Rainbow Six 3. 3 great games, all in one nice package. So I think that's awesome. Splinter Cell, I still need to play the sequels. The original was a big game back in the day. And I tried to play it recently. Man, is that game brutal. God, is that game brutal. It's way harder than Metal Gear. But I hear this one's even better. And I hear these two are some of the best games ever made. So I do need to rectify that. Yeah, I guess I didn't look hard enough. Who knows what happened with that. Here is a almost Robert Rodriguez inspired sort of crazy Mexican action movie inspired over the top Grand Theft Auto style game here. Total Overdose. This looks very unique in its exploitative kind of style, kind of like Machete. That's what it reminds me of in terms of movies. You just shoot a bunch of shit up. I'm sure you steal cars. I'm sure the story is absolutely insane. Here we have Tron 2.0 Killer App. I've heard really interesting things about this Tron game, this first-person shooter Tron game. It looks super cool, so I got to try it as a fan of the movie. Here's a nice steelbook of true crime, New York City. This game was a big deal at the time because it was basically a Grand Theft Auto ripoff where you could kind of go anywhere, shoot shit up. And this got a sequel that takes place, I think, in L.A., right? Don't I have... let's see. Yeah, up there I have Streets of L.A. This one you play Streets in New York, in Streets in New York. So both were pretty good. I'm not sure how they hold up. Actually, the newer game, Sleeping Dogs, is basically one of these games. They just kind of rebranded. I think it was the same studio. So Sleeping Dogs is basically True Crime Hong Kong. Played that game years ago in high school, Total Overdose. I remember it being fun, but never did finish it. Good to hear, yeah. This is one of the newer additions to my collection because it looks so goofy over the top in that cinematic way that we all love. So, Unreal Championship, God, I played the hell out of this game back when Epic Games, you know, I'll just say made different types of games. They were always innovating, and for the last 10 years, all they have done is make Fortnite. So that kind of bothers me. Unreal Championship is my era. It's my Fortnite, and game is still fun to this day. Talk about an underrated 3D platformer with a really cool gimmick and some dark elements to its humor. Voodoo Vince is an awesome little game where you go around as this voodoo doll, and you hurt yourself to hurt enemies, and like... It's just a fun, quirky 3D platformer that I did sit through and finish years and years ago now. The Warriors. I hear this game is slightly better on the Xbox, if I'm not mistaken. So, when I found this at Pause for Pause, I picked it up and sold my PS2 version. So it's a Rockstar game it feels just like the movie. And the cool thing is this is a couch co-op 2-player game. So you could beat up thugs and innocent people and steal from cars with your buddy. What is this? 13 I always was interested in because it was like a comic book style first-person shooter with hand-drawn comic book-like graphics. This always intrigued me, and I guess intrigued enough people to the point where it got a re-release. But I do want to sit down and play this. I'm all for quirky style first-person shooters. And last, oh no, that was it. That was last. Okay. 13 is the last one. So is this in here? Jeez, man. Yeah, most of the stuff that I'm looking at is perfect. But next time we'll start with that there. So we have Xbox. We have the few Xbox One games I have. The GameCube stuff, which I know a lot of people are going to be excited for. And finally, the Wii, which is a console I have not many games for, but I do feel like each and every one is there for good reason. Oh, and then, of course, the forgotten Wii U. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to go and look on eBay to see how much I can get a disc of this for. But thank you guys so much for checking into this live stream. Another 2.5-hour live stream in the tube, in the tank. Or down, well, how do you say? Down the tubes? I forget anyway. I'm losing my mind. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I need to go relieve myself. Urination. And so I will talk to you guys soon. Feel free to give this live stream a thumbs up. If you're watching it on the archive, you can still give it a thumbs up. That still helps me quite a bit. Share it around if you have people that think would enjoy this or get anything out of it. I hope I educated you guys. I hope I informed you guys. But more importantly, I hope I entertained you guys. Thank you all so much for the support. You guys are really helping the channel grow. This core group of people that keeps coming back for these live streams means the world to me. May not be many of you guys, but I know all of you by name. And I plan to keep it that way. You guys are the foundation of what I'm trying to rebuild here. So thank you so much for the support. I appreciate and love all of you. Feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I also have my Patreon up and running, so feel free to donate to that. A couple people have joined as members, which I appreciate. Feel free to donate to that. There are some decently cool perks, I think, in there. And super chats you can always do if you want to support financially. I appreciate it so much, guys. Everything that's donated to the channel goes into the channel to make it better. Thank you guys all so much. I will see you all next time. Bored Cyborg is out. Peace.